right, Kyle Roethlein, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cheers. Happy, what is it? Is it Thursday?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm drinking this out of the bottle, which you're not supposed to do. You know that when they put the foil on it?
Really?
So that you don't drink it out of the bottle, so you actually don't be an asshole and you put it in a glass, you know?
I thought it was for a layer of fanciness, like, the fancy chocolates that were wrapped in the gold.
Like Ferrero Rocher?
Yeah, for
man.
sure.
It is
Those are
Christmas
exactly
time.
the ones.
I'm thinking about those. All right, man. I'm all out of sorts for the podcast listeners because I just got done rolling, and so I'm exhausted and all over the place. But I feel like that's a good place to be in when I start something like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a pretty open headspace after you do that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm a little jelly. I've been dealing with a little ear thing, so I've been off the mats for a couple weeks. So I'm jonesing a roll.
Yeah, I've been because I noticed you come in kind of toward the end of class or whatever, just to observe, I guess. But
kind of hang out, watch, do some sort of study. I'd figure try to move the needle forward and somehow.
Yeah, that happened to me. So this is my second month of training.
Mm-hmm.
But that happened to me in Florida during my first month. I got a solid rib injury. I think it's real common in jiu-jitsu, honestly. And I was just like, I'm just out for a week, but I still just went to just the class portion every day because you can still just learn so much just doing that part.
Yeah.
And then when they start rolling, you're like, I'm out. That's it. I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, for sure.
But it sucks. It sucks to be out of it.
Yeah. You can also do things like, find your favorite rolling partner and set up like flow rolls and stuff like that where there's like a little bit of a kata to it, like a give and take situation.
So what's a flow roll?
It's like we're half trying to kill each other with a little bit more focus on the transition from submission position to submission position. So like if we're flow rolling, I might pass your guard, get to side control, do some sort of Kimura setup, and then allow you to get out of the Kimura setup so then I can go to the next thing. And then there might be some point where it's a natural place where you would take control.
Right.
And then I would be defending and so on and so forth. The focus being more so on the transition rather than the end result. Everybody's going about 20-30% as opposed to that 70 plus.
And is anyone really trying to submit, or is it all just kind of sweeps, just sort of changing positions?
Like anything, it tends to ratchet up in somewhat of a fun way, and I feel like when I've seen it executed best, it looks like problem solving. When the defender runs out of ways to solve the problem, it's like reset and then begin the flow again.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting thing so far. I was just talking to Andrea, my wife, yesterday, who I was telling her, I was like, I am finally getting to that point where I'm realizing the best people for me to roll with are the other white belts who I'm in the same league as, because then I can actually execute on things. They're going to make a mistake that I can work with, and I'm going to do the same for them.
Yeah.
Or the high-level black belts, where they're going to let me do stuff. Like the other day, I took Master Al's back, and I was like, there's no way I took your back. Like, you let me have it. I know that. But he allows me to do that in order for me to practice.
Right.
It's the blue belts and purple belts that I got to watch out for, because those guys, they've got something to prove, and fair enough to them,
the tail feathers, right?
Yeah, you gotta. So what is your belt then? Because I haven't seen you.
I'm a blue belt.
Roll yet? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. That's funny. We have not rolled yet, but I'm sure we will at some point here. How long are you gonna be out for?
I can't take much longer.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna go pretty soon. I'm just gonna duct tape my head and just go in there like.
What's going on? I don't have to ask.
There's like a little. It maybe started as a blackhead or pimple or some sort of irritation on the back of my ear, and then it just got super infected.
Ouch.
I didn't manage it well, and then it just flared up, and then I had to get the thing cut open and on some antibiotics. So it's like, it's unfun.
That's not fun, dude. That happened to me last month. I get them on my eye sometimes. This happened once before, and it kind of starts as like just a small sty.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your whole eye is just puffed up.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Like, what the fuck?
It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing. But luckily I found some topical steroids from an unknown source.
There you go.
And it just cleared it right up.
Yeah. Supposedly Manuka honey is supposed to do some wonderful things for
What's Manuka honey?
Skin irritation.
Like normal honey, but from the country of Manuka.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. And on the toppest of the most shelves, like it's It's crazy when you start looking at the cost per ounce or whatever it is, as opposed to like your your normal local varietal honey or something like that.
Yeah.
But I guess it has a lot of antifungal and antiviral properties for more of a holistic approach rather than pharmaceutical.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I have not explored too much of that personally.
Yeah.
But
That's one of my favorite things traveling. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But I'm like, I get excited when I get honey from the place that we're actually staying at.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, new place, new honey.
It's different.
That's stupid. It tastes different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
I think because I heard this thing a while back, and I'm certain it's not true, that supposedly local honey helps you with local allergens. Something like that helps your body's response.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm also the type of person that's like, yeah, 100% I buy that. So we just do it now just for fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty stupid.
If there's some balance in all things, I can see how there's extreme expression of that flavor of conversation where it gets very super woo-woo.
Yeah.
But like, again, balance being on all things, like every science project or science experiments ever created had to like work against this whole placebo thing, this like ability for the mind to create its own results.
Yeah.
So then it's like, there might be some truth somewhere in between. And I think that really makes sense, at least in the honey example. It's because it's like, honey is derived from the bees. The bees are fed off the pollen from that area. So like if I might have allergens or if the pollen from the area might bother me, that's a way to get like a processed microdose of it.
Yeah.
Maybe. So then the body can build some sort of resiliency against it.
Like I said, I buy it. And at the very least, I think, I think you and I are both familiar with a lot of the same ways of thinking when it comes to health, which that's why part of the reason I'm excited to be here, because I know we're going to dive into some of those, because you're already speaking my language, man.
Oh yeah.
So like the idea that we've got the placebo effect that we're trying to work against with science somehow, instead of incorporating that into treatment. Like it's one of those things where I think about, I've said this on the podcast before, and again, all of this I feel super stupid about. It's everybody just should know that I take all of this with a huge grain of salt. But when you take your multivitamins in the day, when I take those, I think about like, what is this doing for my body? Because you're multiplying the effect of anything that you're doing that's real and very physical with some decision that you're making in your mind. And when you can apply those two things together, things become more powerful. They can have a better effect on your body.
I feel like it's the multiplier.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying that it's the key. It's the base level. I'm saying that you take the base level, the real thing, the turmeric, right?
Yeah.
I take the turmeric, but then I think like, all right, inflammation. Like this is what I want to do today. Is I want to lower inflammation in my body.
Right.
And I'm taking this pill. This is my inflammation pill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same way that you'd give someone a sugar pill and be like, this is the pill to treat your cold. You're gonna feel better now. And fucking half of them feel better.
And they're like, yay, I feel better.
Exactly.
Yay, the pill is
so
wonderful.
How's it any different? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like it's just decision. I'm gonna give you a little more slack here because like you've got all this cord, so just be comfy.
Oh, cool.
Whatever you want. Yeah, man. And maybe it's the same thing with honey. Maybe that's just how it is.
Right.
I don't know. But you've had to go. You've had to go Western medicine on this one, haven't you? Got the antibiotic route.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you have to venture into that realm. I had appendicitis at some point, so I had to get that taken out. And there's been pivotal moments where it's like, okay, that's needed, like birth. I'm pretty happy for Western medicine in some birthing practices.
It's funny that you say birth, because that's what my wife and I do. Our marketing agency works with natural birth professionals, a lot of natural birth professionals.
Hell yeah!
So I'd say sometimes,
right?
Yeah.
And I think in certain situations, like a friend of mine was a couple months premature. Like he wouldn't be my homie had it not been for that. But my mom had, I don't know if we call it a natural childbirth or whatever, but she didn't take that epidural. So like balance and all. What's that?
I think we're looking at that steak over there.
Oh, he is. He's like, yo, dude, you forgot about the steak.
You can. I don't mean to interrupt your lunch here. You can bring that over if you need.
No, we're good.
Okay.
But I should probably give some to him so he mellows out.
That's fine.
We kind of have an agreement,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lets me keep half the bed, and I give him some steak scraps.
That's fair enough.
But
that's fair enough. What's his name again?
I think it's awesome you guys are doing natural childbirth, because when we look at, there's all sorts of food allergies, and there's all sorts of skin issues and stuff like that. And when you look at some of the science, or maybe I should say data or research, about the positive benefits of like breastfeeding for as long as you can.
Yep.
And like we should probably move topics pretty quickly, but like the mother's slime and stuff like that, like, like it's supposed to be awesome for the kid's immune system.
You're definitely supposed
and all
to
of that.
come through the birth canal for sure.
Right.
There's no evidence that you're not supposed to if you can.
Right.
Yeah, man, I've had the privilege of learning some pretty amazing things about how birth goes and how it works when it's natural and normal. But it is an issue. There's so many things that contribute to this, but it's an issue that like a third of births that go to the hospital are happening with cesarean. Like that's statistically, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That's not really what's meant to be happening. So we have to look at like underlying conditions of the mother. We have to look at how we treat pregnancy. We have to look at how we talk about it. It's fucked up. There's some good history there. There's some interesting history really of, there's an exact word in the history here, so someone will be upset with me, but sort of dream drugs or whatever it was back in the 60s that they might 50s or 60s that they might give laboring mothers that just essentially just kind of knock them out, just take them to another realms. They're not even present for the birth. When you think about it, all these women that have these incredible natural births, they come out saying this is the most transformative experience of my life.
Yeah.
So you're taking that away by creating sort of fear and a sense of sterilization, and it's really interesting, man. It's been a really cool industry to work with.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting as a jumping point too. So that was kind of the market that we started working with heavily. We're starting now to kind of open up and start to work with some other markets, including martial arts, which is fucking awesome. Of course, I'm very excited about that. So we're starting to kind of be able to expand out. But when you find that everything that comes to health comes back to what we do, which is content marketing, just making content, that can encompass fitness too. It can encompass chiropractic. It can encompass functional medicine. I mean, there's no limits to it. Everybody needs to make content to do these things. Anyway, you're getting my whole spiel that I usually give on the phone to people, but that's kind of what we do. So it's
cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely know more about natural birth than the average person my age, which is probably good. Yeah. It's a good thing to know a little bit about. Yeah, women have shit healthcare in this country. That's crazy. Sure. Like we all do. Women really, really do though. Like it's not good. It's bad, dude. It's bad. How do we get on this topic? Okay. Maybe we should give some people some background, including me, as to who you are and like what your deal is, what your story is. But, I reached out to you mostly because, we met at 10th Planet. That's where I'm training for this next little while here in Tucson. I actually tried another school before I came to 10th Planet. I was kind
Which
of...
one?
Erie?
Okay.
Erie, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we stay way west of town, like past Tucson Mountain Park.
Oh, beautiful.
It's awesome out there, but I was like, do I really want to drive 40 minutes every time I want to go to jiu-jitsu? And I tried the other school, and no disrespect to you guys, but it just wasn't my vibe.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I think I got to bite the bullet and go to 10th Planet. If this is all I hear about is go to 10th Planet.
Well, heck yeah. Welcome.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm glad you made the journey.
Yeah, me too. But we met there briefly, and then I saw on Instagram that you do all of this. You're definitely into natural fitness, which I think is really cool. And I rolled up, and you've got the gorilla head on it, kettlebells. That's a sign of a cool home gym.
Yeah.
So what's your story, man? How'd you get into all that?
Well, in high school, my cousin and my older cousin, he's probably, I should know his age, but whatever, 6 or 8 years older than me. We raced mountain bikes together, and so at a young age learned this idea of training and fitness and how to, if I ride every day, then I can race faster on the weekends. And it was periodized, hard days, soft days, hard days, soft days. I forgot what I'm answering. My story. So I started racing mountain bikes and road bikes with my cousin at a pretty young age and enjoyed. It got the taste of competition.
Yeah.
Just outside of high school, kind of fell into the whole like kind of girlfriend hanging out, partying type thing, and stepped away from the bike and stepped away from kind of health and fitness. It was just a dude. Ended up racing cars for a little bit. Not totally legally, but not totally illegally as well. More so
Okay.
in the streetcar format than bought a race car and a race trailer and drove around to the tracks and stuff.
Right.
And then that evolved to riding dirt bikes. Now, dirt bikes and motorcycles, as you know, take quite a bit of balance, coordination, strength, skill, mobility.
They're fucking exhausting.
Exhausting.
They're exhausting.
Exhausting.
It's
right?
like doing 40 wall sits at once, but for an hour.
At once. So started riding dirt bikes, picked it up fairly quickly because of my experience from racing road bikes and mountain bikes and all that stuff. Found myself in some pretty fast packs of people. And I was like, okay, how can I hang? How can I ride this faster? Take me back to the training that I did when I was younger. Okay, if I want to ride faster on the weekend, I need to train during the week. Well, I can't ride my dirt bike every day during the week. So how can I get extremely athletic, fit, mobile, explosive, and something that creates balance? Well, insert the kettlebell, right? So took on some personal coaching, learning some kettlebell movements, played around on YouTube, YouTube being snatch and clean and jerk. With the kettlebell, you stumble across these people that are doing it with the barbell, and you're like, whoa, that little Chinese guy lifted 400 pounds. Like, what? That's the most impressive thing I've seen.
Yeah.
How can I do that too? That looks fun. And then I was in a small town, so the only place that had bumper plates put me in a CrossFit gym. So that was super fun. If my focus was the Olympic weightlifting, so if I wanted to do the Olympic weightlifting, I'd have to hang out and do CrossFit first. So I'd do that, and I'd hang out after class for the next class, and I'd sit in the corner and do my Olympic weightlifting. And then I was like, hey, I want a key. I want a key to the gym. And serendipitously, it worked out where a short period of time later, the owner was going out of town, and she needed somebody to help coach the morning classes. And I had moved well and absorbed a lot of the information fairly well. So she's like, hey, do you want to coach these classes? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then she handed me the key. And then that turned into coaching CrossFit for a couple years with the main focus on quality movement, not quantity movement. The CrossFit athlete is going to try to move it faster, quicker, harder, stronger. They're going to go with the caveman side of the conversation. I didn't need to insert that. So it looked like pulling back the reins a little bit and teaching people how to move. Right. And I fell in love with it. It was awesome. From there, I moved to Portland, and my job changed. That I didn't have the same available time to train CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting and all that stuff, functional movement, we'll call it. But it did put me next to a really badass 10th planet. And after years of listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, which kind of helped spark the kettlebell thing, it was like, okay, well, now it's time to learn some jiu-jitsu. And fell in love with that. Just the presence of it. Like, there's no tomorrow or yesterday when you smack hands and you start rolling. It's just like, it's amazing. And I mean, even just thinking about it now, I have a little bit of goosebumps or whatever.
Yeah, man.
And from there, it's kind of evolved to how can I train every day and try to get better and stronger and smarter and stuff like that.
So how long have you been training now?
3-4 years.
3-4 years.
Yeah. No, about 3 years. About 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. About a year at 10th Planet Portland, and then 2 years here with Birchek at 10th Planet Tucson.
Yeah. I like this place so far. I like it. Yeah. It's a different vibe though. I wonder if I'm missing out on something about this gym. Yeah. Here's my theory. Okay. Because I've been going, the easiest class for me to make, I got a drive to make. So the easiest class for me to make is the 11 o'clock class. Right. I can put work on either side of that bookmark and be there at 11, as opposed to coming back out in the evening and then getting home super late, or trying to come out for that 6 a.m. thing, that crazy thing, which I'm sure I'll do one of these days. But I feel like it's smaller during that 11 o'clock, and there's a lot less community happening in that room at that time. Am I right, or what am I missing?
You are. You are right. The 11 o'clock is generally a smaller class. If our evening class is 20 to 30, the day class is, we'll say, 8 to 16. Yeah. 8 to 12 type thing.
Today it was 4.
Right. And today, and we're
including the instructor.
We're in a little bit of a weird cycle that There have been some competitions that people were kind of training hard for, had competed. There were some competitions that kind of fell off. So I think we're in a little bit of everything has a little bit of an ebb and flow.
Sure, I get you.
I think we're in a little bit of at least an ebb, if it were, in some of the day classes. But usually it tends to be a little bit closer environment. Like if if one class was a drill, kill, we're here to crush, that'd be our evening class. And if the other class was like a think tank class, that'd probably be our day class where, you get a little bit more time with bird check. You get, you get some time to ask some questions and play with some ideas with some of the higher belts. So it's fun.
Well, and this isn't me trying to be complaintive about anything.
No, I didn't.
Because I like that too. My favorite is going to be that smaller class. I'm used to that. I went to a small high school. I went to a small college. I'm used to one-on-one time with a professor, right? That's my vibe. So the opportunity to ask questions and have that hands-on attention. What I do miss though is that in those class, I am by far the lowest ranked guy there. And I feel like if I was in a bigger room, there'd be more guys. It'd be spread out a little bit more. So I think that's what I'm really missing out on, is being able to roll with some white belts, but then also just sort of the relaxed community of it. I mean, I got lucky down in Florida, which is where we came from before here, where I was training at Gracie Bradenton. It was a real communal environment, and their day classes were just like that. They were very relaxed, lots of people there, very community. So I think I'm just missing that aspect of it a little bit. But also, I don't think there's ever going to be anything like your first gym. Like, I think those are the people that you connect with the most because they were the first to kick your ass. Yeah. They fucking popped your cherry, and it's like you want to go back to that gym at some point, and I'm not really going to be able to do that until
there's kind of a longing, maybe not sort of longing. There's like a wanting for that similar environment, or like remember that, wait, was that there?
Yeah, well, they're also the only people that are ever going to understand your progress. Like, you guys don't know what I came here with and what I'm going to leave with. Not really. You're going to see what's in between. But they're the only ones that are going to know, like, I know exactly where you started when you walked in the doors. Yeah. And so I think I just missed that a little bit. Yeah. But it's good, man. It's good. You fold in, and everybody here's been real nice and real welcoming. It's definitely been the place to be, for
on
sure.
that idea, I think you also add maybe a different flavor too, like you have, because each practitioner has their own different styles, right? And each coach has their own different styles. Some coach moves, some coach concepts, and then everything in between, right? Yeah. So I've really appreciated, going to different 10th Planet gyms. I spent some time when I was in Portland, right. At Henzo Portland up there with Karsten at the time, and then Aaron Milan. Karsten's now Henzo Des Moines. But it's cool getting different perspectives because, early on somebody mentioned jiu-jitsu, made some analogy as it's like a language, right? And it's really stuck for me in such that, like, I'm learning words, and maybe I'm starting to learn phrases and sentences, and every once in a while I might stumble together like a good paragraph, right? But then there's people that are fluent, and those people, the different fluencies are going to teach me little different ways to put my language together, right. Little different words. So it's like, when I've had an opportunity to go to different schools, man, it's been super fun. Yeah. And I think you learn a lot when you find yourself in a room over your head, because when I was skateboarding, I'd spent some time skateboarding and stuff like that in high school as well, like more like the start half of high school. The dudes that were surrounded by people that were better than them got way better, way faster. Yeah. And me and my peers were all around the same skill. And for whatever reason, in other groups, we could see people progressing faster, and then that group might take off in a certain way because of whatever dynamic. But like the people that had, like the new skaters that were just forced to hang out with the dudes that were badass already, they got good quick.
Iron sharpens iron. Yeah. Right? It's a real simple concept, and I feel good about that. I really do appreciate being in those rooms. I think it really is just sort of the live rolling, where I'm just like, man, one of these days I'd love to do something instead of just being controlled this whole time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. At some point, try to execute something, because these guys are so good that I can't even start to try to execute something. They see it coming a mile away, you know. But it's been getting a lot better. I mean, I even was thinking back to like when I really first started, and it's funny too because on this podcast I did 3 episodes that were sort of about jiu-jitsu and my fascination with it before I ever tried it, and it's like a whole different thing now. I mean, even Heather, actually, oh my goodness, I'm starting to just free associate now. I need to slow it down. Where was I going with the first point I was making? When I first started, I was working on, I can't even get someone into a guard. I can't get someone into a closed guard, right? And now I can do that pretty regularly. A couple times a day, I will do that.
Yeah.
So I have to remember those little steps of progress. It was like, dude, when you first started, you didn't have a guard. Yeah. There was no guard for anybody to pass. It was just like, here they are, you're done. So I try to take refuge in that fact, I guess.
For sure.
I guess.
I'm smiling and giddy because I remember moments driving home just full stoked, elated that I didn't die.
Yeah.
Like that person couldn't kill me, you know? And then the next time it's like, ooh, I got a sweep, you know, on that person, you know, whether they're whatever belt or better. Oliver Stark in his book, White to Blue Belt, he brought up the roles. And every day we train, we should probably try to get a role with somebody, our peer, and a person on either direction. Somebody that we can munch and somebody that's going to munch us. Because when we get munched, we can kind of learn and we can build some fortitude and stuff like that. We have targets to shoot for. We have a peer, which is probably going to be our hardest role with the highest intensity because everything gets scrambly and slippery and stuff like that. And then there's somebody that you can practice new moves on and solidify your other moves. You know, your 1, 2, 3s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and I've applied it a little bit, and it seems to do well. When I just shoot up the ladder, sometimes for too long, sometimes I can feel like I suck at jiu-jitsu and I should probably just quit. You know.
That's what happens when you're the lowest guy on the totem pole too. Yeah. That's the only option. Yeah. You know. So I wonder if that would. So I think I'm sure I'll be able to try an evening class at some point because I guarantee there's people that are. I have to assume there's people that are closer to my level in there. Yeah. Some guys that are fairly new, where you know I'm not. I can.
I'll help. I'll try to help pick one out for you. Like I'll point one out. Like get that guy.
Get that.
Because it is okay. So being a traveler, right? Like when you have your home gym, you know you're training, you're progressing with everybody. You're like, am I even getting any better? Am I even learning any of this language? Right. I don't even know. That new person comes in, or that person that doesn't have as much experience, who comes into the gym, you can see them, and then you grab them and roll with them, and you munch them. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm learning this. Yeah. I know this. Okay,
right.
Cool. Everybody else just knows the same tricks I know. So then we're kind of counteracting each other, you know.
I'm a good ego booster for you guys, for sure. And you do good things to my ego in beating it down. No, I mean, it is good, man. It is good for me. I tend to find that it's do you know the book Fight Club or the movie Fight Club? Mm-hmm. Either way.
Unfortunately, I just know the movie. I learned that it was a book the other day, and I was like, "What's this, a book too?"
I am obsessed. Chuck Palahniuk is the author. I am obsessed with him. I have read every single one of his books. He's incredible. He's dark as hell.
Nice.
It's amazing. The book is phenomenal. That's the classic thing to say, right? The book is phenomenal. It is, though, in this case. And luckily,
I imagine it would be, because the movie's phenomenal. I watched it as a kid and missed a lot. Having rewatched it as an adult, I'm like, that was a skeleton key to life that I missed. But
I was lucky enough to not have ever seen the movie, so I got to read the book first.
Badass.
And I really liked it. I mean, it's one of those things, we all know there's a twist in that movie, and when you read it in the book, you cannot fucking believe it. Like in the movie, you can almost see it coming. There's something about we have more practice with movies, I think. We have more practice seeing twists coming in movies. We're looking for holes. We're looking for like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. There's something with books where you absolutely don't see it coming still, because we just don't have the practice at it. That was that day I went. We didn't have any internet. I remember we were staying in South Dakota, no internet, no cell connection. I was just shit out of luck. And I was like, Andrea, we're watching this fucking movie tonight. I just finished this book. We're watching this movie tonight. We have to. And I literally went and like drove and parked outside of a Subway so I could steal their Wi-Fi so I could download this movie. And I just sat there and waited on it to download. Yes. It's a huge movie. It took forever. But it was worth it every second.
Yeah. Which footlong did you get?
I didn't.
Nice. Well
I
played.
didn't.
Well played. Good decision.
No, man. I was there the other day doing the same thing. I was uploading one of these podcast episodes, trying to steal their Wi-Fi, and I just couldn't bring myself to. I'm really into sourdough. That's my thing.
Nice.
So eating normal bread is real hard. I do it sometimes
And
when we're
who wa-
driving. Is when I do it.
Wasn't it yoga mat at some point? Wasn't the bread some portion of yoga mat at some point?
What do you mean?
This Subway had some scandal where there was like some similar ingredients that they were putting in their bread that was found in yoga mats. And they're like, "Oh, hey, we're sorry, we changed that. Do you guys want more bread?"
They're pretty good at saying sorry, aren't they? They've got some history. They picked a
Jared,
pretty
right?
rough spokesperson, right?
Bad.
Did we all forget about that?
Yeah.
Their weight loss guy. Oops. Yeah, man. We have just. I really like. This is my favorite type of conversation because I realize I've tried to start different thought pathways. It doesn't fucking matter. We end up going down just something
pinball
different. It's so good, man. It's so good. Why did I even bring up Fight Club? Oh yeah. Okay, so he's got a line in that book and in the movie where he says after you are fighting, everything else in life gets the volume turned down. And there's this great scene where his boss comes in and is getting upset about some forms, and he's just deafened down. You just can't hear it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's exactly right. And so especially having class at 11, man, I like that because I do some bullshit when I wake up till I leave, and then you go and get your ass kicked, and that erases what happened in the morning, any work stuff, and then you go back, and the rest of the day, any more work you have to do, the volume's already turned down for you.
Right.
I think it's a really good thing, and I honestly think back to before I had anything like that. I mean, working out can do that for sure. I get it, but simulating murder is different, isn't it? It's it does even more so, and
working out, you really have to try. You really have to try. You really have to get out of your phone in between the sets. You really have to check in and put work into the bar.
Yeah.
Training, it's now.
Yeah.
Now. And I mean, even drilling, there's enough going on, proprioception, how am I going to curl and invert and wrap my legs around my partner without kicking them? Even drilling for me, the day disappears. It's just it's right now. It's this presence thing. It's
yeah, you're right. I haven't actually. I feel kind of bad because I haven't worked out conventionally in the ways I used to work out since I started doing this. The one thing I can do is run. So my rest days from jiu-jitsu, I'm out running.
There you go.
But I haven't done other types of workouts because I'm just wiped from this most of the time. And hopefully at some point that evolves and I can pick it back up. But for now, man.
Kettlebells are an easy, simple tool that also travels well. But
I do. That's typically what I go for.
Yeah.
But I just haven't had the energy to do it. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu tomorrow. I'm going to be
jiu-jitsu.
Wiped. Yeah. I need to get back to it though.
Sometimes I stumble in the conversation of I got to warm up, and then how am I going to warm up? And, it's going to take a while, and okay, that was a great reason to not work out or train today.
There's fear. I'm sure there's more fear when I first started, right? Where I am afraid that I'm going to tire myself out. I'm afraid that all I have when I go to jiu-jitsu is the fact that I am a strong guy. If I make myself tired the day before and I go in sore, today I was off. I don't know why, but I was off. I was exhausted from the first second of the first roll. Yeah. And I know there's days like that. But I'm terrified that that's how it's going to feel if I work out outside of jiu-jitsu. I'm going to come back and be like, dude, I'm sore. I have no energy. But I know that that's not how it works. I know that's not how energy works. That's not the transaction, is it?
It might. I mean, you'd still I've definitely trained too much the day prior and then gone to jiu-jitsu and felt completely smoked, and maybe those roles look differently, but it's still something to focus on.
Yeah.
The Chinese do weightlifting very artistically. The Russians do it very violently. There's patience and aggression in both, right? Everything below the hip is trying to get into the hip so it can explode. The Chinese, when you do a lift successfully but work too hard at it, they say, strong lift, not being a good thing. And there's a little bit to that in jiu-jitsu as well. There's a backhanded compliment somewhere in mid-ranks that exists oh man, you're so strong.
Strong.
And it's
instead of smart.
Instead of technical, instead of smart, instead of oh, good job getting me in that, and it's So sometimes it is also good to go into training where you're completely wiped out, because then you don't have the horsepower. So then you have to do it a different way.
Yeah.
But just different ideas.
No,
right?
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It's you're really calling me on my bullshit, and I appreciate it today. It's a good day for it. Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, you could call me on mine too, because I found a very similar thing. You know, when a shoulder injury, a ear thing over the last couple months, it changed the way regular training looked. And I've, started off many days with this, like, yeah, I'm going to kettlebell, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do all this fitness stuff that I love. And then come at the end of the day, it's still not crossed off at the end of the list, because it's like, it's not as fun as jiu-jitsu. It's like, well, that's not the funnest thing I can think of doing right now, where jiu-jitsu is always the funnest thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most fun way to expend energy.
The most fun way. I think there's something that goes on hormonally too, like jiu-jitsu athletes and grapplers and wrestlers and stuff like that, people that engage in combat have a different fit physique and finish to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody tries to look like the athlete, only the athlete looks like the athlete. The athlete eats and trains, doesn't diet and exercise, I think
that's an interesting expression. I like that.
They did a study and they looked at hormone production. What are we doing when we're lifting weights? We're trying to get a physiological response. What do we do when we train? We're trying to get a response, right? And they did a study where they looked at hormone production on a number of different subjects, some professional athletes that were doing squats, some professional athletes that were doing leg curls, people, indigenous people that are chopping wood to build fires and stuff like that for their homes. And they found that compound movements that involved your whole body working as a chain had the highest rate of hormone response in the body. Now, if you took that compound movement and you applied it to some sort of survival thing, there was a weird multiplier there. So
I see where you're going.
If what we're doing is we're engaging in this highly intense exercise that's super, strenuous and playful in its own way, and there's this game of survival, the body doesn't know that we have this tap thing. Like it's only knowing you're dying.
Yeah.
Hence because we have to work through that ability to freak out and not, or work through that ability to die without freaking out,
Yeah.
So I think since we are playing with this survival mechanism there's this huge hormonal response that gets us jacked in a more quick way.
Yeah. Yeah. Every part of your brain is telling your body, you better get hard fast. You better know how to, if this is what your life is people are trying to kill you every day, I'm going to adapt to that. And we're going to get fucking strong.
Like we have to do this now.
We have to. Yeah. It's different. It's different. Because it's the difference between like a farmer and a fighter. Mm-hmm. A farmer could be lifting and moving and all day and their cardio is killer and they can pick up anything you put in front of them. Mm-hmm. But there's not the additional switch in their brain, like you're saying, that is saying we're doing that, plus we're going to die if we don't get it done.
Right.
So you're just triggering some old evolutionary stuff. Yeah. Gets easier. It's probably a good excuse for a lot of guys to not take care of themselves outside of jiu-jitsu too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel lucky because when my wife and I really came into natural health, it mostly started with food. I mean, that was the first thing. That was the first domino for us, and so that's the last thing that I sin on typically.
I think that'd be the base. If we looked at like performance health or natural health as a pyramid, I think food would be the basis.
Right.
Like, what's the fuel you're putting in the body? If you're putting in shit fuel, none of the other top half is going to matter.
Right.
It's always going to be wild.
Yeah. You can put diesel into Ferrari. It's not going to drive very well. Yeah. Yes. Correct. I mean, yeah. Exactly. So that luckily is not a super hard one for us because we've already sort of drawn that line and said, like, this is who we are. This is what we do and how we take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So luckily, it's not like I go to jiu-jitsu and then come home and I'm like, oh, I crushed it. Now I have an excuse to do whatever I want.
Now I get the ice cream.
Exactly. Because, but then at the same time, hopefully if you're like a regular jiu-jitsu goer, you also know that ice cream is going to mess you up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to go back and roll tomorrow and not perform like crap, you need to pick a better dinner, man.
I think it starts a different conversation. The conversation once evolves from, oh, I can't eat the ice cream because I need to lose the weight or I don't want to gain the weight, to, for me, it's performance. You know, like this hand tends to be a canary. When I eat like an asshole, my hand gets a little achy. Like I can tell that I look down and I don't have veins in my feet anymore, you know? I can tell that inflammation's accumulating in a way that's like, hey, man, make some new decisions, you know? And then performance suffers. So then it's like, is this mouth pleasure worth the lack of performance tomorrow? Well, most of the time it's not, you know?
Well, you're right too, because we take away any need for anybody to feel like they have to physically perform. Like, what do you have to physically perform at? You're just going to go sit in your chair and work on your computer all day. That's what you're going to do. You don't have anything to perform at, so why feel like you have to? Right. And then as soon as you get jiu-jitsu in there, it's like, not only do I have to perform, I have to perform to save my own life here. And I think we miss that as an excuse, and now there's a way to get it back. It's possible again.
It makes it painfully obvious. You know, like we could say, should we take a small direction? Steer this if we don't want to go down the road. Like we could say COVID did the same thing. COVID's made it painfully obvious how important it is to take complete ownership of your health. Because there's people that have had extreme struggles with COVID, and there's people that have weathered that storm very easily. And I'm no expert or anything like that, just an observer.
Right.
You know? And it's just made it, we can't clean the world. We just have to build a resilient body. And that's always been important. Just now it's painfully obvious. It's always been important to be able to lift and survive and be fit and strong, but put yourself on a jiu-jitsu mat. It's like, now it's painfully obvious.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Or now we've created an environment where we're hyper aware of our performance.
Well, I wouldn't mind if the conversation was more about that when it came to COVID, frankly. I mean, I always say that I'm so dang in the middle that it's hard for anybody to have anything on me. Like I'm just going to fall in the middle of just about any argument you can bring to me, because I see the gray. I've done whole episodes where we've talked about that on this podcast, actually. But if there's one thing I'm certain of, it is definitely that there hasn't been enough conversation about what an individual can do for themselves within this thing.
Right.
And I think that's dangerous, because if we're not talking about the thing that actually helps, then what are we talking about? We're talking about the thing that helps at scale, but not on an individual level, then how can anybody act on that? I mean, frankly, it's weirdly like the same conversation with climate change, where all we talk about is, actually it's the opposite. We only talk about what you can do at an individual level, but we never talk about what actually needs to happen at scale to make a difference.
On a system level.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, man, I can put every box I get into the recycling, and that's not going to do shit if a large corporation is still allowed to dump whatever, wherever.
Right.
You know? I'm not going to affect that. So it's like complete opposite problems. It's just like, who are we going to talk about? Are we going to talk about this at scale or talk about the individual? But I think that just comes from having just too many fucking people. Just too many people who, when we get to scale, nothing can make any sense anymore. And then you're all forgotten about on an individual level. So there's nothing, we can't even address that side of things. I don't know. This isn't making a whole lot of sense.
No, I think it is.
It's revealing, especially right now.
I think it is.
That we don't know how to talk about on an individual level.
And I think sometimes we lose frame of reference on how to challenge an idea.
Yeah.
You know, like scale is a great way to challenge an idea. Does it scale down to one, and does it scale up to everybody? Until the solution does both, I think there might be a better solution available.
That's interesting.
You know?
That's well put.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there might be a better solution available unless it scales from the individual to societal level.
Yeah.
Or individual to organization, whatever it is. You know?
I'm also typically, and I think anybody who listens to the podcast knows, I'm typically so much more interested in what happens on the level of the individual, because I really like the mindset of sort of that whole, it's classic. It's the 7 habits mindset of like the circle of control versus the circle of influence.
Yeah.
So I'm far more interested in the things I can actually control about myself, knowing that I can take vitamin D or I can go in the sun.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing all year. Than I am about a larger question, because I'm just one person. I don't have a worldwide reach. I'm not Joe Rogan, right? I actually don't really want that because that's way too much responsibility.
You're terrified, right?
It's so much responsibility, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting too when you see people become that big and the things they used to be able to talk about versus the things they can talk about now. And I get that because they have a responsibility to not fuck around and fuck with people's heads.
Right.
Because you're affecting things millions at a time.
I wonder what the follower number is. Like, because there's a threshold on everything, right? Where, you don't have a large enough audience. You're not responsible for the information that you give them.
Yeah.
Not you, but one, right? And then, like, you turn into Joe Rogan and, like, he gets, like, criticized because it's like, no, you have such a audience. You need to be responsible for the information you give them. He's
right,
like,
you think there's a number.
what? Like, I wonder what that threshold
We're
is.
not equipped to deal with that, are we? We're equipped to know 150 people maximum.
Yeah.
That's what we're equipped for. And we're all thrust into this.
I was on a mushroom trip one day and I thought
Here we go. That's a good way to start any fucking story. Wait, give me another beer for that.
I started thinking about that
Where'd that
Dunbar's
bottle
number,
open?
right? 150. I think it's a lighter.
I'm going to break it if I try, but I'll try anyway. All right, go ahead. Dunbar's number. Here we
Dunbar's
go.
number.
On the mushroom trip, thinking about
On the
Dunbar's
mushroom
number.
trip, thinking about, and I was like, I had this weird thought venture or whatever. It's like, in movement and stuff like that, or in jiu-jitsu, we have shapes, positions, or archetypes, we'll call them.
All right, I'm going to bust your lighter here.
I wonder if
I don't do that very often. I usually have a bottle opener on me. Look at him.
it was this crazy thought of like, I wonder if Dunbar's number is like the number of different archetypes of people. Because I've had a couple of different friend circles now, where I move on and find a new group and then move on and find a new group.
Similarities.
And you find, you're like, oh, that's my old Jawong. Or you're like, that dude is just like that other guy that I knew. And it's just like, I wonder if there's only like maybe like 150 different archetypes of people. And then obviously within that archetype, we all find our own unique expression, right? But like Bob the Builder, Andy the Architect, you know.
Here's listen, I like it. Thank you very much. I have not.
I did
opened a beer
preface
a
this
lighter
with
since
mushrooms, right?
Okay.
Allegedly. What am I supposed
Okay.
to say?
But here's the issue, though, is that all of a sudden, should we get those going too? You've got the lighter here.
Might as well.
You want to?
Should we?
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
we should.
Fuck yeah.
I don't have very many excuses to do that on podcasts. So many of them I end up totally inside. It's just got a leaf around it, so you just take the whole leaf off.
All right, I'm going to watch you do this so I can not look
Well,
like
just-
a rookie.
Bust the band, and then it'll all fall off for you. And then there's... Sorry for the audio listeners. The visual people are getting a real show here now,
The
though.
visual's getting a nice stogie effect
Yeah,
here.
nice stogie.
And Guinness in frame?
Your dog's name is not Guinness.
It is.
That's what I thought you said. That's why I asked you, because my dog's name is Guinness also.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
My parents' little dog. I don't know why these got crispy. Sorry, man.
And if you're a child, it's based on the Book of Records. But if you're an adult, it's because of the beer.
What's based on the?
You know, like, oh, why'd you name him Guinness? Oh, the Book of Records.
Oh, yeah,
You know, it gets weird telling a kid, like, oh, name my dog after a beer.
I don't know if do you prefer a punch or a cutter? Because I have both. I like the punch.
I'm going to follow your lead.
I always go with the punch. That's me. I like the draw better.
Dope.
We're coming back to what you were talking about, by the way, because I really like that subject.
Crap. I thought we skipped over it. I was like, oh, we'll just ice in the cake.
No,
with
of
that.
course we didn't. We're not missing out on that, folks. Because I like thinking about Dunbar's number. That's a big one for me. Unfortunately, that was my nice lighter, but it's sort of busted, so I just have this shitty pipe lighter that I've been using mostly. Just cook it.
Just cook it.
Do you have stogies often, or is this a rarity for you?
Rarity. Huge rarity.
Me too.
Last time-
Mom and Dad, me too. My parents get pretty upset about it.
I had a great memory of a stogie in Mexico with whiskey. And I feel like if
the
I
best
do
way
it
to go.
again, it would be tequila, but nonetheless.
It lights out the side. Be careful. It's just a pipe lighter, so it goes out the side instead of out the top. All right, here's my beef with your Dunbar's number theory, and I don't hate it overall. I think you might be right, and the cynical side of me says
For sure, I'm wrong though. Like that was just a keep going.
No, your theory might be close, but the cynical side of me says you're right. People are not unique, and there's only that many archetypes of people. At the same time, as soon as you decide that it's finite how many types of people that there are, we have an issue. Because what that means is that we have 7 billion plus people all fitting into X number of archetypes, right? Whether that's 150 or in a sort of dumber example, think of the zodiac, right? Now we've got only 12 archetypes people can fit into. So as soon as you make it a finite number, it gets kind of dumb, doesn't it?
Hold on. Yeah. Did you ever see that little YouTube clip? It was like, did you know? And they did like a did you know 2.2 or 2.0. But in one of these things, it was like weird little facts quantified in a way that makes you go, wait, what the fuck? There was like, if you're 1 in a million in China, there's 100 million people like you.
Right, I've
you're
seen
like,
that.
Huh?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't wait, what?
You need to be 1 in 7 billion. 7
Yeah.
plus
So
billion
then,
now.
when we think about that, like, quantify this 150 by billions, the idea doesn't scale.
So here's a connection you might like. So my wife and I were talking about soulmates the other day, the concept of soulmates. And I think that if you've got two people who are sold on soulmates, it's the two of us. It's the one thing that makes me feel like there is something going on here that is supernatural, right? Because she's perfect for me.
Yeah.
So that fucks with me. But she's like, do you think that there are matches of people that are just perfectly, exactly right for each other? In theory, someone who you think is your soulmate, there is actually someone who is, in fact, a better soulmate for you. And what I told her is, I actually don't think that it comes down to an individual personality. I think it way more comes down to their story. So I think they were all just ultimately made up of a story or a place in a story. And so as opposed to being a person who would match well with another person, it's never going to work like that because our stories have to line up. It's a much more dynamic force if it's like my story has to meet your story at this moment.
Yeah.
And now we're soulmates because our stories met at the exact right moment.
Our stories are in alignment.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that people are far more than a static thing. I think that we're so dynamic and every interaction with every person, and then it becomes exponentially bigger and bigger and bigger as more and more people are created and more challenges and more stories. That I think is how I view it. And it's the same way I think I view the idea of there being archetypes, because you could put me in one archetype for a year, but next year I'm a different guy. And now I've got a different story and I'm not that same archetype anymore. And so I'll never stay one thing. I mean, how many people have reformed and completely changed their lives? How many people were like a heroin addict and they're like, yeah, you're definitely that archetype. And then they get good rehab or they get religion or whatever it is. And then the next 20 years of their life, they're the most philanthropic person you've ever met.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Like if I woke up 3 years from now, I was the same person, I'd feel like I missed it. Like I missed the mark.
Yeah. You fucked up bad.
Yeah. It's like, oh
3
crap.
years?
How did I not evolve? Because
Right.
they say like formative change is like 3 years, 9 years, 30 years, stuff like that, where you're like transformatively a new person.
Right.
If that's a word, I think so.
And you're supposed to, in theory too, isn't there another number? I love how we're combining all these quantitative concepts with qualitative ones. It makes no sense.
Somebody with Google is just like, I hate you now.
but I've heard this thing that if you're friends with someone for 7 years, they will be a permanent fixture in your life. Like 7 years is some sort of magic number. Have you heard this number before?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I spoil that one. I'm a weird anomaly, man. Like we were talking about, splitting the people up in zodiac signs and Dunbar's number and Bob the Builder today and what are we tomorrow and stuff like that. I've been in a couple of these rooms where like they try to break up the room and like, oh, are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Are you in this type of person? Are you that type of person?
Right.
And I end up center of the goddamn room every time. And like some weird chameleon-esque thing. Like, I don't know, I'm a little bit of that and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Where are they going with that?
That's exactly the same thing I was saying back to you, which is that you can't break people down into some static thing.
Yeah, that's
like,
what it is.
Some days I love people, man. I'm having a great time right now. Tomorrow I might be like, fuck everybody. Like I just want to lay in bed. Like,
right.
We're just not that static. We can't be.
It gets weird.
Not when you've got brain chemistry mixed with outside forces mixed with a life history mixed with, I don't know, man.
And I would say programming and deprogramming. You know, like the weird societal programming that happens, you know, like act this certain way, act that certain way, and then have it be your choice.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, I can't do all three of those.
Yeah.
Like I can't act a certain way and then pretend it's my choice. Then that's just your choice. You know, we program these behaviors in people, and then at some point they start unprogramming themselves and like learning new behavior patterns. Like, oh, wait a minute, that behavior didn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to do that, you know?
Yeah. So yesterday I put out an episode of the podcast with former Navy SEAL Jake Zweg, who I actually recorded it with him in July. And he told me back then, it's going to be a minute before you can put it out. And I was like, that's all right. I got to go re-listen to the entire podcast because I had to edit it the whole way through, switch camera angles and everything. And there's one part of this podcast where it's so nice to re-listen to it 5 months later, because I'm explaining to him that my wife and I lived in Denver for about 2 years when we really got our legs under us and started creating our own lives. After that, we got on the road. Now we've been on the road for just under we're coming up on our second year, right? In the amount of change that I was able to achieve in Denver in 2 years is now what we're doing almost every time we move to a new spot. So as soon as you put up challenges, you're changing even faster than you were before. It's been one of the most interesting things I've found about travel. It forces you to be dynamic so much more because you're confronted with yourself all the time. You can't wait. You got to make that decision. Where are we going next? Yeah. What's happening next? What are you going to go see today? You've got 2 weeks here. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
You know, when things are too comfortable, you're not allowing yourself to be dynamic like you should be, probably.
Well, you forget the requirement or the need to grow. It's comfortable with stagnation, right?
Yeah.
I think also with the travel, you have the opportunity of a fresh, not a clean slate like anybody's done anything wrong. We'll just say a fresh slate, right? A fresh environment. And in a fresh environment, you don't have a preconceived listening. And what I mean by that is it happened a couple of times because I moved away from Hawaii when I was 9, and then Lancaster, California, and then from Lancaster, California to Tucson. And so it happened a few times where I had a fresh environment to recreate myself. Now, on the previous, I don't really have some thought there, like tangible thought. But like freshman year, I started Catalina Foothills and walked in the gates of this giant public school, and I didn't know a single human being. Terrifying in some light, but also people were never really a thing. I'm a people person, but I was also an only child, and living in Hawaii, that a lot of time spent on the beach. So like if I wanted to hang out, I would go and be your friend.
Yeah.
So like that side of it wasn't scary at all. So what really was there is an opportunity to like, okay, fix what you don't like and like highlight what you do like, because nobody knows you. There's no preconceived notion. Nobody's waiting for me to fuck up and be like, haha, you did that thing that we knew you were going to do. So then we could, you know, or you weren't stuck in the, well, you're the podcaster. You have to do the podcasting thing. You can't do anything else. We can't redefine you in a certain way.
Right.
You have a fresh environment every single time.
Well, not to mention, I mean, when you're talking about moving too, it's not just when you arrive either. It's when you also leave. So it's the thought that no matter what I do in this short period of time I'm going to be in one place, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave. Yeah. And there's freedom in that, because as much as I still want to be a good person and I care what people think, in that I don't want to hurt anyone else's life, I don't have to worry about it that much, because at some point I'll be out of their hair too. I'll be out of everyone's hair and I'll be in the next spot. And they won't be in my head anymore. You get when you get that sort of transient nature, it's almost it's both nice as the traveler and I think as the people I know as a traveler. Because, and especially when I ask to take up people's time too, which is really interesting. Like, we just stopped in Baton Rouge and we have a team member there who is phenomenal. She's a good friend. And we basically hung out at her apartment pretty much most of the time we were there to do some work. And then we went over to her place for Thanksgiving and all that stuff. But then I know she knows we're leaving Friday. So put up with us for a minute. We're going to be in town, but we're not creating something where we're always going to be here and we're always trying to work out some sort of dynamic. I don't need to work out a dynamic with you. I'm just here for a week. Yeah. I like that nature of it too. And I like leaving knowing that I can't embarrass myself that bad because at some point I'll be gone.
Yeah.
And even if I don't like a place too, which I love Tucson, man.
This too shall pass, right? This idea.
Yeah.
This too shall pass.
Right. Yeah, it'll be move on to the next thing.
Tucson's dope. It's a uniquely cool spot. I appreciate it probably most for that mountain.
Which
for like
one?
That like the Tucson mountains. You can always see this mountain from any spot in town. So it's like, if you're ever stuck at a stoplight or driving along, like for me it's like I don't get lost in myself. It's like, oh yeah. I'm just a thing in this big system, I guess the expansiveness.
Yeah.
Expansive, not expensive, but because looking at that mountain, you're like, you're right, I'm small. I'm insignificant. Like shit in my life is really important to me, but only me.
That's the
type thing. And it's
you're a fellow Joe Rogan listener, so I know humble. When he talks about looking at stars, the idea that we're supposed to see a massive amount of stars at night, and it feels like the less we see, the more we're going to be able to forget how small we are. But you're supposed to have that every night to be like, what in the fuck is out there? And I am tiny, aren't I?
Well, I thought about this.
I've been swearing a lot on this podcast. Sorry, parents. I feel bad. My parents listen to this, and I just smoke cigars.
I drug you into it for sure. I can drop some F-bombs.
If people are swearing, I'm going to if people are swearing, I'm going to swear.
It's one of those things. It's like, oh, we're going to swear. This is fun.
I do different types of episodes, man. It's fun for me. Like today is one of those ones where outside having some beers, having some cigars. I think I'm doing another one tomorrow where I'm going to be inside in like a co-working space. It's going to be very relaxed and super professional. And
nice.
I probably won't swear once.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fun to do like that. Wait, where were we going with this? No, you're saying looking at the mountains makes you feel small. I like that.
Feel small. The stars.
Same thing in Denver. That was the big thing I noticed when I moved to Denver. Was you've always got these massive mountains there, and they look like a fucking painting.
Yeah,
if you're not from there.
Yeah, totally. And then Tucson and Arizona especially has beautiful sunrises, sunsets. So it seems like it's picturesque pretty frequently.
Yeah,
and all the blue skies. But talking about the stars, I was thinking about like
you're on a mushroom trip.
I was thinking about it from an evolutionary standpoint of like, why would we be able to look completely 180 degrees up if it wasn't so goddamn important? Like everything that we do, we have that ability maybe. For good point. Yeah. No, I mean,
well, if you're in, well,
like it gave
I like
light to this,
metaphorically
like,
we're
importance
going,
of like, it's a way we have, and I mentioned this to a friend, and he pointed out, and to me it existed as an example, another example of balance, right? And I go, whoa, we probably evolved like with this ability to look up at our neck because it's important to look at the stars, or we spend a lot of time looking at the stars and stuff like that. And he's like, yes, but if you think about it, we have a complete 180 degree view.
With our eyes and our peripherals,
like,
you mean?
With our peripherals and the articulation of our neck. I can't look past 180 degrees. I have 1/2 of a perspective. Always. I only have 1/2 of a perspective. So it's like, even when I'm right, it's only 50%. At least it existed to me. It was like another example of this, like, and the thought process was, oh, we probably evolved to look up the stars because this is kind of cool and this is interesting. And then my buddy that I was with is like, yeah, we have a 180 degree perspective. And it was around this time I was playing with this idea. Alan Watts presented like this idea of balance through the zebra. You know, is it a white horse with black stripes and a black horse with white stripes? And I know somebody answered this with science and has an answer to that. That's not the point. But the point is like, you know, the black horse is this omen, is this bad omen, and the white horse or the gold horse is this Chinese good omen, you know, and life is this existence of both. And it's like, and then when we only have a 180 degree perspective, it was like, I I can only see half of things. Like I can only see things through my own thing, my own light, my own field of vision. So it's like, as right as it may be, it doesn't mean it's right for another. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But
yeah.
Stars.
I like that perspective.
Yeah.
I like the perspective. It's weird to think about. It's actually kind of tripped me out a little bit because I'm thinking about this and I'm like, even as you and I are sitting on this podcast, we've got, there's like 3 angles happening. We've got what the viewer is seeing, and they're going to see what's in that field of view that I set up before we started. So it's really my eyes over there.
Yeah.
Then I've got what I'm seeing, which is a whole picture over here, but I have no idea. I know those two. I don't know what you're seeing. So I've given myself a digital 270-degree view or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you've been looking this way the whole time.
Yeah.
I physically couldn't do it if I tried.
Really?
Well, I mean, how could I? Because I can't see myself. So I have no idea what this story looks like from your perspective.
Yeah.
So the idea that you ever know what anybody else is thinking is ludicrous.
It's crazy.
What we all need to do ultimately is try as hard as we can. Even that's probably not going to be enough to understand what the person sitting across from us is seeing, because it is not going to be the same as what we're seeing at all. It can't be. It's black and white. It is 2 different things.
The best we can do is try to understand that person from where they are. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I love the psychology of body language. I'm really into it. I don't act on any of it because I just couldn't bring myself to do that. Like if I felt like I was always faking my own body language, it would really fuck me up. Yeah. Because
I hate that guy that does that body language handshake where they're like, I'm gonna die. You're like, come on.
Am I the only person that 9 out of 10 handshakes I get wrong? 9 out of 10 times when I'm shaking someone's hand, I end up like,
dude. All right, shout out to my buddy JT. He's got a thing. Stick out your finger. You shake like that. You shake with a gun.
Yeah, all right.
If you get your finger on my wrist, it makes a good handshake.
Oh, okay.
Like, there is no way to fuck it up.
Okay. I think people close too early. My issue.
That could be.
So I'm like, good to meet you. Yes.
Oh, when they end up doing that. I'm like, no. We need to redo this.
Yeah. There's no recourse for it, is there?
I find the dude that does the dominant hand though, he has to flare out his elbow and he opens himself up for an arm drag.
Oh yeah, dangerous.
So it's like
never
don't flex on somebody.
Yeah, you go in for a job interview. Yeah. I might just fucking choke you out, bro.
Might just arm bar you.
I don't need this job. I might just show you what an arm drag looks like, motherfucker.
Yeah. Say what again? Free jiu-jitsu private.
Terrible idea, everybody.
Horrible idea.
How did we get talking about shaking hands?
Body language.
Oh,
the body language
okay.
Of like that weird handshake thing.
Body language. So it's interesting because from what I have heard, 2 men should not sit opposing each other because it puts them in a mindset that they're on opposite sides, apparently. So if you're ever like meeting someone for the first time, and luckily it works for podcasts, you want to be at like a 90-degree angle to them because now we're working on the same problem together.
Same idea, different application.
You know what I mean?
Fascinating. And I would agree. When I sit down with my buddies at a restaurant, we don't sit next to each other, but we caddy corner the booth.
Yeah. So here's what I think is strange.
And it's not because we're putting our fucking legs up.
Here's what I think is weird. When it comes to a couple, when it comes to two people who are in a romantic relationship, whatever genders, doesn't matter. What I'm saying is more often than not, if my wife and I go to a place where she could comfortably either sit next to me or across from me, we almost always sit next to each other. A lot of people insist on sitting across from each other, but I think that creates a weird relationship divide, doesn't it? Because then we're opposing each other.
Okay, jumping back to the perspective thing,
but
then you guys are sitting in the room having the same perspective.
And that's true, but same perspective is how you create a connection with someone, isn't it? In a way. I mean, it's easier at least.
Yeah.
But I think that this same thing, someone should look up this study and like send it to me.
Do you think that's why people pick up their phones?
No, well, maybe.
Because it's like, if this is confrontational, right. I don't want to be confrontational. Mm-hmm. So like, okay, maybe I'll just pick up my phone. / I'm also bored and have the attention span of a gnat.
Right.
I don't know.
But I think it's different when it comes to different genders too.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's true with women. From this study that I read a very long time ago. I love this. You know what my favorite thing about podcasting is?
Let's explain this.
You'd be like, oh, this fucking study I read so long ago. I don't actually know what it said, but I think it said this.
And I've never read one. It's always been what I heard.
But it's different. It's different if you got the 2 different genders too. So I wonder how that works in like in a non-heterosexual relationship? How does that work? Is it different? I don't know. These are good thoughts. These are cigar thoughts, man. Actually, these are not cigar thoughts. These are like we've almost had something that's almost legal in Arizona type thoughts. Yep. How many days away are you?
Too soon, my friend. Too soon. Actually, I don't know.
By the time this episode comes out, it'll be
right on.
Like a week away.
Perfect. Another example of that same energy thing. I did some work in car dealerships in the service department. So like I was a liaison between the client and the technician. So like you told me you wanted an oil change. I told the technician, hey, change the oil.
Okay.
Got a lot more elaborate and everything. But
right.
Oftentimes what you're managing is conflict resolution. Hey, the car that I bought that I had expectations for didn't exactly perform exactly how I expected.
Right.
It was my job to tell you that it was okay. And the car was normal and that it was how you were supposed to experience that. And my buddy Tommy, he was a master at this, at diffusing confrontation. One of the things he told me is oftentimes people come up to you in this face-to-face thing.
Right.
He's like, just take a subtle step off axis and bring it takes the like
for the
saying,
audio listeners, he's demonstrating that.
Oh, like
if we're standing face to face, you might just take a quick step and
like a side,
put yourself 90 degrees to someone,
like a side shuffle.
Yeah.
So like we're kind of shoulder to shoulder, standing with each other on the solution rather than this face to face confrontation. You're wrong, I'm right. I'm going to make you.
Yeah.
Thing. And it's the same example that you're talking about.
You know who knows it better than anybody is pickpockets. Have you ever watched like a really good sort of like an entertainment pickpocket do their thing?
No.
Oh man, it's scary. It's scary because they know exactly. Hi, Guinness. That's the best name for a dog.
Yeah,
you're the best.
Best people name their dogs Guinness.
My folks' dog. I guess it's my dog, but they got it when I moved out. To be fair, which it was to replace me. Let's be honest.
Right.
But I did end up coming up with the name Guinness, which worked. But it's not like your dog at all. This is a tiny yappy dog. Yeah, this one is sort of gold. It looks like the foam on a Guinness.
There you go.
If you will.
Yeah. The head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like a really good pickpocket knows like when to make and break eye contact in order to like access certain parts of our own brains. Like it'd be I think that's got to go on my bucket list somewhere. All right, don't eat that ash. I don't want you to eat that. That's got to go on my bucket list somewhere of like allow someone to try to steal my watch or something. I think it'd be so cool.
I would love so I enjoy people watching. I would love to see that. And I don't know what I would do. I don't know that I'd call the person out. This is just being 100% open. I don't know that I'd call the person out because I'd be too enamored at watching it happen.
If
like
it was
the second
good.
time I saw it, I'd definitely call the person, hey, give that.
Yeah.
But like the first time I'd be like, whoa, what am I seeing? Look at that.
But they even do it in ways that like an observer can't see very well too. You know? It's wild. It's wild. Oh, I have a buddy now on the couch, everybody.
Yeah, he's chilling.
You are sweet. Good boy. Wow, this has been some rabbit holes, man. That's my favorite type of podcast though, so I appreciate you running down the rabbit holes with me. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about archery a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something that you're into from what I have seen.
Yeah.
What do you shoot a compound bow?
Compound.
Okay.
Yeah, a Hoyt.
Oh, top of the line.
It's a couple years old. Actually, how old is it now? It was super cool. I ended up picking up off Craigslist for like a killer deal. The guy had, the quiver, the arrows, the release, 2 sets of limbs, so it was perfect. So I trained on 55 pound, and then a couple hundred arrows in when, things were getting real nice and steady. Jumped it up when it was time to restring the bow, and 65 pound.
Nice.
Yeah.
So have you gone bow hunting? Do you plan to go bow hunting?
I've carried my bow around in the woods in camo.
With a tag?
With a tag.
Okay.
And my bow. Yeah, because I was carrying my bow. The result didn't feel like hunting. But yeah, I've gone a few times.
What does that mean, the result? Did you
It's
bring
such a daunting
home?
task, right?
Did you harvest or not?
No, definitely
No, you
not.
didn't. Okay.
I did not. I didn't do enough prep work. It was kind of like It's kind of like I was like, oh yeah, I'll put in for elk and get a tag, and this will be fun, and then kind of forgot about the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked on Facebook, and a buddy of mine posted. He's like, oh, my account got hit. Who else got a tag? And then so I was like, all of a sudden I had a tag. I was like, oh, cool, awesome. I'm gonna kind of prepare for this.
Where was this at? Where were you supposed to go?
Payson, outside of Payson. So 22.
I don't know where that is.
22 North would be the hunting unit, but Payson is about an hour and a half northeast of Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of a small little mountain town.
Near, like, I'm picturing like Flagstaff when you say north of Phoenix.
Excellent. So we have the state. We're here. It kind of goes up towards Flagstaff. Payson is off to the right, a little bit lower. So it's east. It's east of Flag.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, east of Flag.
Gotcha.
I was unprepared, and felt a little unskilled. So it was kind of like I'm just hiking around, looking weird with my bow. But
did you go with someone who like knew what they were doing?
No.
That's bold.
Yeah.
Have you ever? Would you know what to do if you got one?
Yeah, I mean,
how do you know that? See, that's the biggest hurdle for me. Is I feel like even if I could make the shot, what then? Like, what am I doing then? I don't know how to.
It's
harvest it all.
So if you have cell phone service, YouTube.
Oh God! In the moment,
in
like
the moment,
oh
no, one should probably prep. And Steven Ranella has some fantastic videos. He's the guy that does the Meat Eater podcast, the Meat Eater TV show.
They just put that on Netflix, didn't they?
Fantastic show.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's awesome. It's not like we shot another one. Ooh, gosh dang.
Yeah.
You know, it's really he's a great narrator, and he understands the facets of wildlife conservation, and is a lifelong hunter. And he's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, the walking around in the woods with the bow, I just felt like I was a little unprepared, and didn't put myself in the great position to see any game. Sure. So I was like, oh, this was silly. Clearly, I need to work a little harder at this. I spent like a day or two on the hill, so it was a small effort. But in previous time, successfully killed a deer. That was super delicious. It all started from this conversation of how am I going to give myself the best food,
Right.
And it was a way to do it.
There's no question.
Yeah.
There's no question. It's wild game.
Yeah.
Story over.
Mm-hmm.
Question asked, man. It's wild how much better it is for you. Fuck, it tastes good too.
Yeah.
I
think the people that say it's gamey, it's like it's not supposed to taste like beef. It's not supposed to taste like that. Like, so wouldn't it be boring if it tasted like that?
Yeah.
Like if it didn't have a different flavor.
Yeah. Why would you go do it?
Yeah.
Just go to the grocery store.
Right.
Go to the farmer's market. This is the big thing with Andrea and I is that we do all of our meat from, well, when we can. I'm not a perfect person, but when we can, we do it from farmers markets, so that we know we're going to family farms for grass-fed, pasture-raised beef when we can. But you know what I find it's really hard with is turkey. You can find humanely raised chicken. You can find like pasture-raised chicken pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But I try to get turkey in every now and then, and the best you've got is sort of the no antibiotics,
right?
Supposedly cage-free, but like
still this giant weird-looking bird.
It's just like cage-free doesn't mean that much. Cage-free can mean so many things. It's like just because they're not in a cage doesn't really mean they had a decent life at all.
Right. Like, and in the court of law, it means it's defined in a certain way. I don't know
like
what
X number of square feet,
like X number of square feet, or access and availability to the outdoors, or something
probably not
like
nearly
that.
enough.
It's still some sort of weird situation.
I appreciate about Tucson though. You guys have some better stores here. You got a bunch of Sprouts. I'm a big Sprouts guy because they do the Instacart pickup. I'm not going grocery shopping.
Really?
It's the worst.
Oh, I like it.
No, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like it anymore. I didn't even like it before COVID. Now I super don't like it.
Yeah.
But I just do the pickup. It's the best. You just pick everything up on the app, and then they're like, all right, be ready at 1:00. You pull up and they put it in your car. Done.
So
much faster.
When I was racing bikes or when I was training bikes, I used to love when I would be riding my bike past a bunch of cars in traffic because it's like, I'm getting more done than you.
Right.
I think there might be some of that when I'm grocery shopping.
Oh.
You know, like, because, you know, you see sometimes Costco get a little busy or whatever.
Right.
And everybody's just kind of like meandering through
Right.
with their carts, and you're like,
okay.
You're like, oh, yeah.
Okay, but the next fucking level is that I'm outside with the store associate putting it in my car, and I'm out. So I'm beating you by like a mile.
Well played. But you don't get to pick your apples.
You know what? That's true. Picking out the produce and the vegetables, and sometimes they'll bring the order to your car, and they're like, we're out of this. And you're like, you're not out of that. I know you're not out of that. This is a really unique thing. Nobody's fucking buying this. Yeah. You're certainly in stock.
You always have kiwis. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, you for sure. You just probably didn't know what this one was, this strange vegetable for our guinea pig. You know, you probably just didn't know. It's that's the only unfortunate thing. But you know what, man? The time it saves is dumb. I don't know. Yeah. Can you really get away to the grocery store in like less than an hour? Like from the moment you say, I'm going to go get groceries.
I'd say yes. Okay.
To getting home and putting the groceries away, can you really do that in less than an hour? I need that hour, man.
Okay. I'd say yes. Here's why. There's a couple benefits on my behalf. Well, like Sprouts is a block of the
You're
street.
super close.
Super close. And
yeah,
just right past the gym too. It's like ideal living situation.
Do you walk over to the gym ever?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
We have no bananas.
Yeah, definitely.
I got my buddy Kier gave me a bicycle when he went off on his road tripping venture. He'd be worth talking to, by the way. Super cool cat.
I should mention, okay, pause. Don't lose your train of thought because I want to get back to it. But because I need your theory on how that's possible because I don't think it is. But I should mention for anybody who has listened to the podcast, this is hilarious. I'm in Heather Raftery's backyard. She has been on the podcast as a remote guest. And I haven't seen her since I've been back in Tucson because I know she teaches the other class at 10th Play, the competition class.
Yeah.
And that's just, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen her once, but we're in her backyard. Because y'all are you roommates or
roommates,
are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to live here. She's fucking awesome.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
I didn't know what it meant when you said you lived together, but yeah, so, this place is great. So she, I think, was sitting here when we recorded our episode, but it was during the start of COVID when it was like, are we all going to die? All right, let's do this episode remote. I'm not going to come over. Like, let's. Yeah. So it's funny to be here, but not with the guest I thought I'd be here with. Hilarious.
It's so cool.
So funny.
Such a small world.
Okay. Please continue with your grocery story.
Grocery storing, walking to the.
Does that Sprouts have sushi, by the way?
It does.
I love grocery store sushi. I'm
really?
Such an idiot. I love.
Oh my god! I haven't done it once.
What? Get some salmon.
Maybe once. Maybe once.
Like
but I haven't done it on any regular basis.
Okay, so
I got sushi out of a food truck once in Portland, but the only reason why I did have a food truck is Portland. You know, because there's like a culture there.
There's one on 22nd that's a seafood. It says seafood on the side,
ballsy,
but it's also right next to Santa Rosa Park. Which is probably the biggest homeless encampment I've seen here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this does not seem like a gourmet.
Yeah. They probably have seafood and crack serving all the audience.
Seafood and crack. Wow. Impressive. One of these will make you sick.
Yeah, I think you can get out of there in an hour or less. I was in Sprouts once, and you know how like they have the new COVID messaging? You know, they're like, oh, it's been 30 minutes since your hand wash. Or it's time to wash your hands again. Oh, yeah. So in Sprouts, at least the one over here, they have like this announcement every once in a while where it's time for the employees to wash the hands. And I was in there once, like kind of venturing off and looking at things too long. And I heard the message twice. And I was like, oh, shit, I got to get out of here. And then I went up to the front of the store and checking out. I was like, hey, how often do they play that message? And they're like, every 30 minutes. And I was like, I was in here for 30 minutes.
See, shit. Here's what we're not acknowledging. I think grocery stores are the new casino, man. I think that there is a person up the corporate chain somewhere. I don't know who it is. It's like the Illuminati of grocery stores who is deciding exactly how to make this maze to down to the deepest levels of psychology to keep you in there as long as possible.
Yeah.
And to make you as hungry as possible.
Well, Target's the worst example of that.
Yes.
Might be
thoroughly believe that.
Might be the best big box store.
In terms of
what?
Hold
on. I guess Costco's the best big box. I don't know. Forget it. Poor venture.
Costco, you know what? I'm always impressed with Costco's food options. I actually feel like I can buy food there that's not going to kill me. Mm-hmm. That's the craziest thing. I'm a big ingredients label reader.
Me too.
I don't read the nutrition facts at all. I just think that's a bunch of baloney. I may look at like how much included sugar is in something, right? That's like the only thing I'll look at.
It's like sugar and then ingredients. That's it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And I'm always surprised at Costco. I'm like, oh, those chips are really good. Oh, what? That's avocado oil? Great. Oh, okay.
Right
Perfect.
on.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to get these. Now, the reason for me not to
you.
get them would be I ate the whole bag at once.
Yeah. That is an issue.
But
I don't have the membership. We went with Andrew's parents when we were down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They took us on theirs, and I swear everything we bought is like already gone, except for they do have grass-fed burger patties, frozen ones.
Super good, right?
I have cooked us like probably, how many come in that pack, man? I don't know, but it's been at least like 5 different meals, like 5 nights. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's lasting forever. Everything else is gone though.
Everything else gone.
Like those chocolate, those dark chocolate like with pumpkin seeds things?
Yeah. Like the
Gone in a day.
bark something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary. With the sea salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can think about Costco all day.
Mm-hmm.
But
I can think about food all day.
Can't do a membership there in an RV. It doesn't work out real well.
But they're everywhere.
Well, it's not about access. It's about storage.
Fair.
Because if I buy the
You're
stuff
like, what
I
the hell
want
am I
to
going
buy,
to do with the other 3 chickens?
one bag of chips is like most of the pantry. You know what I mean?
It's probably bigger than your pillow.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Not mine, actually. No, it's dumb. You know those wedge pillows? I've got one of those.
Yeah.
Huge wedge pillows.
Okay.
Yeah. I have terrible stomach acid, so
I
live on that thing.
I do one of these like arm sleeps thing, and it's super awesome
What's
for my
that?
shoulders. Like, like a arm sleep, like I'm sleeping on my side,
Like a
pillow,
little ostrich. Oh, yeah.
like that.
But that'll give you flexible shoulders, though. That's super helpful in Jiu Jitsu, I've noticed.
Yeah. But if I do it too long, my hand will get a little tingly. It's weird. It's like, oh yeah, that's not normal.
Do you think that we hurt our muscles when, like, if your like leg falls asleep, how quickly do things start to like atrophy because they're not getting like oxygen? Like, you can only cut off the blood to your brain for a few seconds before you're just gonna like die, or we're gonna pass out first, and then you've got a little longer, and then you're gonna die. But we cut off like the oxygen to our leg for like a long period of time. When it falls asleep, you might be sitting there for half.
Is that
an
what's
hour.
going on when it falls asleep?
Yeah, I think so.
Huh.
Isn't that what it is? You're blocking arteries and.
Yeah, I mean, I guess oxygen circulation.
Yeah. So how do we know that leg's not dying like your brain is dying?
I think people have to be bedridden quite a bit of time before they start to go into atrophy, though. So.
I agree with you, but I also I'm talking about like damage. Is there any damage happening? Not like you're not going to die. Your leg's not going to fall off. If you stop it to the brain, you'll stop functioning. Your heart will stop pumping. Things will stop happening because your brain's not telling them to anymore. But what I'm saying is, if you cut it off to your leg, is there any damage occurring? Or when you sleep all night because you're too out and your arm's asleep all night.
So
those muscles aren't getting any oxygen or any nutrients.
the only way I'm partially aware of an idea that somewhat relates is in strength training they'll do hypertrophy work, like single leg or single joint hypertrophy work, and then they'll mix that with blood flow restriction to activate the response in a greater way. So if what we're doing in weightlifting is technically micro damage, so then we can rebuild and the body responds
Right.
to the dose, then maybe there's subtle damage, but I mean, where do we draw the line between damage and growth, right?
I don't know.
Because we can still use the leg the next day or that like moments later.
Yeah, but is it hampered, especially if it's overnight, especially if your arm falls asleep all night because you had a hard day and you're out all night and your body's trying to repair, including that arm, but it can't get anything to that arm.
Well, I think Boss Rutan had this thing where there was some shoulder or neck damage
I was just reading about
that
him.
caused atrophy in one of his arms. Like it stopped developing.
Really?
Yeah.
This is so funny. I just was Googling this morning. What was that from? Was that from a fight or was it? I heard it was from him doing some stunt work on some show or something.
That dude is pure savage. I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea.
There was something that I think it was weirdly Joe Rogan who said that it was from doing stunt work on Sons of Anarchy, but I didn't think he was a part of that show, so that confused me.
Yeah.
I love that show. So do you ride here in Tucson? Do you have a bike still?
Oh, no. Yeah, that's where we were going for a while.
At some point, we definitely were.
I don't walk to the gym. I did have a bike that I was riding to the gym. Shout out to Kier. But then got a flat tire doing some off-road adventuring on a road bike that I shouldn't have been doing.
Bicycling or motorcycling? Do you have a motorcycle?
Pedal. Sold my dirt bike when I moved here from Portland 2 years ago.
Yeah, no need for a dirt bike in Tucson.
I know, horrible decision.
My God, what were you thinking?
There
I
was
see them out west of town, man. It's just like you could go anywhere.
They were overpriced in Portland, and there's a couple grand I needed to spend on my dirt bike if it was gonna like kind of hold up to par with the way I wanted it to for the next season.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, you know what, and it's gonna make traveling quite a bit more of a pain in the ass too. I wasn't gonna have enough space to get all this stuff, and it was like, okay, this is turning into way bigger of a problem than it's worth. And the bike was worth a lot up there, so I was like, all right, man.
I get that.
And I had sold bikes before, bought and sold plenty of cars before, so it was this familiar thing, and no worries there. But when I loaded up the dirt bike with the dude, and then I turned back to my garage, and I didn't have a dirt bike, I immediately was sad.
Yeah.
I should have, shoulda, coulda, woulda, huh? In hindsight, it played out the way it needed to play out. But
yeah, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, right? But
it was interesting in that moment. Like all of me on the inside was just like, no. Like this little monkey with cymbals was having a temper tantrum. Don't do it.
I can picture that, man. I can picture that.
Because I've sold bikes before, but there's always the new dirt bike that I was excited about in the garage, right? It was like, oh, shit.
So I've got my bike that it's getting a lot of use here in Tucson. The nice thing is it's perfect for me to ride in for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because then my wife can have the truck if she needs it. She can do whatever she wants to do. It's great. We're a 2-vehicle family by not being a 2-vehicle family. It's awesome. It is, in a lot of places that we go, more of a pain than it's worth because we have to load it into the truck every time we go somewhere. And if we're staying somewhere for a good amount of time, even if I'm not really going to ride a lot, we have to unload it. Mm-hmm. If we stay somewhere for like a week, 2 weeks max, I'm fine. I'll leave it in the truck. Not a big deal. It sits there just fine. I can still use the truck and do whatever I need to do. But any longer than that, I just feel bad that it's up there. And so we unload it. And there's so many times during the year where I don't use it at all. And I'm like, God, why am I making us keep this thing? And I have to take the tailgate off of the truck all the time to load this guy on. And I have to make Andrea come out and help me load it and unload it and just all this bullshit. It's not the safest thing we do, for sure, loading this thing into our giant truck. But then you have these times like now where I'm like, I can't get rid of this thing. And I picture the idea of selling that to someone else, and that I know the exact feeling. It's almost like breaking up with someone. It's like, am I making a massive decision or a massive mistake right now?
It's like, this is horrible.
This is horrible.
This is horrible.
I'm being an idiot.
Yeah.
I need to not break up with that person.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's not even second guessing. It's like second guessing to the 10th degree. It's just like,
for sure,
be horrible. I totally understand. Which I just connected with that emotionally as you were saying that. I was like, oh God, yeah.
Oh God.
Imagine getting rid of that bike and not having the next one, not being like, oh, I'm getting rid of this. I know that because it's time to get into this other bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've just scared me, sir. Because now I know I'm never gonna be able to sell it.
Well, good. Keep the bike.
I will.
Just get different versions.
This one's great, man. This one's good because so it's a 750.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got more than enough to take Andrea and I up a mountain. That's the maximum I would need it to do.
Yeah.
So it's got plenty of power for that, and it's also small enough that it fits inside the bed of our truck. It's we've got a 6.5 foot bed in our truck, and it's sort of just the tire just sort of peeks off the edge.
Just there.
So it's perfect. But yeah, I can't imagine getting rid of it for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
but sometimes it's the worst to own a bike because if you're just not riding, you're just not into it, or whatever life situations are going on, you're just like, why do I have this thing?
And with a dirt bike, if you're not riding it, or at least what I was experiencing when I wasn't riding it regularly, is like every time I'm going to go and ride this thing, it costs $100.
Yeah.
You know, like I need a new tire or something broke from the last ride or
Right.
something. Because, you know, I mean, if you're going to do something, have a good time.
It needs work, and you always have to keep it on a battery charger all the time.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing. Yeah, definitely. If you don't have a real need to get into motorcycles, don't get into motorcycles. It'll just ruin you. There's just no need. But also, if you have to, then do it.
If you have to, there's no way.
If you have to.
There's no faster, quicker way for me to fill my joy bucket than riding a dirt bike. Yeah.
That was not my experience riding a dirt bike.
Yeah.
So I actually got to ride a dirt bike because of this podcast. So I was in Grand Junction, Colorado, and I met up with Tim Hines there, who he's awesome. He does the whole thing where he takes like vans and builds them out for people. It's called, I think his company's called Adrenaline Vans.
Yeah.
And so he builds them out in ways that you could fit dirt bikes inside these vans for travel. And they're awesome. And so he took me out. We went dirt biking, and I was horrible at it, by the way. Like, it's just terrible. I crashed like immediately.
Yeah.
And had to figure this out. And then I killed the battery because I didn't even know what I was doing. And
the beauty of the dirt bike, the crash is inevitable. So it's kind of like, yeah, we'll just pick it up.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It was fine. I mean, it wasn't like a heavy crash or anything. It just sort of fell down on me on a turn because I'd never experienced that before.
Yeah.
But all I felt was like exhausted. And we'd only been riding for a couple miles probably. And he was like, all right, you ready to keep going? And I was like, I got to be honest with you, dude, because I'm riding your bike. I'm about to just fall down. Like, I don't have the energy left. It's time for us to head back.
Yeah.
I'd say let's keep going because I feel bad because you came all the way out. But I'm about to crash this thing if you make me ride much more because my legs were just on fire. I was just so...
It's everything.
It's your whole body.
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
Yeah.
So that was my only experience with it. So I don't know if it filled my joy bucket very quickly, but I could see what you mean. Riding on the road for sure does that for me. Yeah. Pretty
well, like anything, there's a learning curve. Like there's probably a moment where riding on the road was this tense thing, and then you found flow and had access to that.
The first time, I'm trying to think of like the first time on a real road, which was. Well, how about the first time when you ever bought like a bike and got it on the road? Did you have any experience like that? No, because you grew up riding dirt bikes, so you're pretty comfortable.
Well, I grew up riding bicycles, so haven't ever owned a street bike. In fact, riding on the road kind of scares me.
But you have to sometimes, yeah?
Sometimes.
Or have you ever?
Yeah. To link trails and stuff like that, and just
like
on around on the dirt bike.
Because you didn't have like a full like dirt bike. You had like a dual purpose of some sort.
Full dirt bike.
Oh, so you really didn't ride much on the road. Like you didn't have turn signals or headlight. You couldn't really ride on the road.
Arizona's pretty cool where they like kind of ask you, they're like, does your bike have the turn signals and headlight and stuff like that? Sign right here. And I'm like, it does. It does.
I think that
because turn
you just
signal,
described as perjury, possibly.
No, this is years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was actually this was the first
you're
time.
You're good. Statute of limitations. You're fine. But
I was 20. No, no, but so you did what you could to get the plate, but riding on the road really just looked like small town linking trail here.
Sure, I get that. That. The first time, so when I bought my bike I bought it in Denver and I hadn't ridden for years, and sorry, I don't have an ashtray for us.
We're good.
That's the one thing I just.
I was just worried about the cords.
Don't worry about it. I'll wash them off.
Yep.
So when I bought my bike in Denver, I had to ride through like a good chunk of like city streets in Denver, which is a pretty busy city, to get it home. And of course, my wife is in the truck behind me, following me home. She came with me to go pick it up.
Freaked out not to hit you, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. She's had to get more used to that for sure. I guess it wasn't in a truck. We just had a car back then. But also, I know that like if I mess up, she's gonna be like right there seeing me mess up, and I really didn't want that like day one. But it's also so hard. It'd been a year since I'd been on one, but what am I gonna do? I didn't know anybody out there to borrow a bike from to kind of warm it back up. I had to just go buy mine and then get used to it on mine. I crashed I not crashed it, but I laid it down like a week of owning it. I just hit a patch of loose gravel.
Yeah.
I know what to do with gravel now. But I was like, really? I just bought this bike. That's all scratched up.
Yeah. Everybody that I know that has had a street bike has laid it down.
You just do.
That terrifies me. I almost bought one. I've almost bought one a couple of times. I was working at this import and domestic performance shop. We did like racer car shit, and I wanted to go faster. And I was running out of money building my car because it's pretty much pay to play environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Street bikes are always fast, and I was like, all right, yeah, let's do a street bike. And I hear this. I was working at a shop right on Speedway, and I could look out in front of the shop and had a field of view of those 3 lanes of traffic, pretty wide, or pretty decent distance. And I hear the street bike, wop, 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 and then like some crashy commotion type noise.
Sorry, folks.
And I see this dude, for my entire field of vision, out the front of this store, sliding on the asphalt, on his dirt, or on the street bike. Out of my field of view here, loud fucking smash. And apparently what had happened is he slid past my field of view into the back of a Maxima and then flew over the car.
Ugh.
That morning, I bought a cycle trader to like look at how much motorcycles were, because I was going to sell my car, work out some sort of situation where I was going to get rid of my car and get a motorcycle. Trash can.
Yeah, I get that.
Another time was like a friend of a friend died. It was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm my mom's only child. Like, we're just gonna, we're going to live.
But here's the thing. What was the guy that you saw crash, what was his condition? Was he okay after that? Do you know?
Yeah. I mean,
what was he wearing? Was he in full gear? Did he have?
I think he might have had a helmet on and like a wife beater. Like classic, stereotypical, like D-bag, should have been riding his buddy's bike.
What about the friend of a friend who died?
That was a situation where this dude regularly did stand-up wheelies at 100. So that had some asterisks to it also. But like in the frame of mind that I was in the network of people I was in, I could very quickly see myself in that group, because I was buying this thing not as a transportation, but like I'm buying this as a toy.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to push the limits up.
Impress, and you're going to want to. Yeah, right. I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah. So it was like, no, we can't do this.
It's like putting too much power in the hands of someone who's not ready for that amount of power.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
I was chatting with a buddy about it, and he was like, here's the thing. My R1 goes 100 in second gear, and there's 4 more clicks, meaning like six gears, right? And you're like, yeah, I don't need that. 100 in second gear. I was like, holy shit.
That
right?
Is wild. How are you not redlining at 100 in second?
Yeah. Sitting on the tank, praying that thing doesn't come up. But
damn. Yeah.
So dirt bikes for me were way safer. And then I found the skinnier and more technical trail I could be on, the more I could get that like adrenaline rush without having to go fast.
But I feel like people more often get injured from dirt bikes than from, let's say, like cases of people like me. I'm riding for transportation. Yeah. I've got my gear on. Put my number of injuries up against the dirt bike rider, and I bet I come out on top statistically.
Depends on the area. Because if you're riding that bike, say in Phoenix, yes end, right? We'll go yes end, 180 perspective. Yeah. If you're riding that bike in the area like Phoenix, to and from work every day,
right?
Where your average commute is, actually I don't know the statistics, so it doesn't matter. But there's some statistic like if you commute on your motorcycle to and from every day in Phoenix, your life expectancy is 30 days. So the dirt biker might have more injury, but the street biker's injuries are way more catastrophic.
That's pretty rough. That's insane.
Like we've had a day ruined because my buddy blew out his knee on, coming backwards down a hill. He stepped down in the wrong way and blew out his knee, and it was just, okay, how do we get you and the bike and all this thing out of here? That was pretty catastrophic, but, he lived, and there's no road rash and surgery later. And so, I mean, in a weird way, I kind of think we're not going to get out of this ride unscathed. So it's like we should enjoy.
Right.
Like surfers might get a great joy off the wave, but a few of them get eaten by a shark.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I did do recently a podcast with a dude who knew a ton about marine life, and he really schooled me on sharks, man. Shark encounters, I've been told not to call them attacks. Shark encounters are super infrequent and often do not lead to death.
It's like great marketing team, right? It's like, hey, let's call these encounters.
Well,
I would agree with you.
He convinced me pretty good.
Like some of the idea in Hawaii is they just bite you and spit you out.
Right.
Like they misconstrued you as something else.
Right. What it doesn't change is my fear level of sharks.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'm
still scared.
Mentally ever recovering from a shark bite of any, or even a shark nuzzle. I don't think I'm recovering from that. I think
I don't need
I'm
to
done.
go to the beach after that.
Yeah, I already don't want to, and it's never happened. So what is it going to be like after it happens?
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing when you get people who, like, this the whole Soul Surfer story, right? The chick who gets back in and keeps surfing. And I get it if that's your life and that's what you want to do. But I don't know how you come back from that.
But it'd be like one of us, if we got injured doing jiu-jitsu, we still go back and train.
Well, yeah, but I didn't lose my arm at jiu-jitsu, did I? Like, did my whole arm come off?
Yeah, good point.
Probably not. Even Tony Ferguson can take a whole fucking arm bar backwards and no issues, apparently. Is the arm bar less dangerous than we thought, or is he just insane?
That dude is pure savage. I mean, in the fight prior, I forgot who he's fighting. Maybe
Gaethje, I thought, was the last fight.
Yeah,
didn't he?
You could see like his body and everything about him wanted to click out. He was like zombie shift, and then he's like, "No, we're fighting." It's like, how does that human being do that? We are not the same.
Okay, we're gonna come back to this one.
Okay,
but I can see that my low battery indicator is gonna go off here.
Dope.
I'd rather be in charge of that and actually switch it before it goes out.
Let's do it.
So, quick pause, everybody.
Pause.
And we're back. Just had a quick, brief intermission for all the battery changing.
Yeah.
Just now getting a text from my wife. She's good though.
Nice.
She was running out for a quick massage, and she was like, "Oh, this place looks sketchy," and then she was like, "No, it's all good," because she knows I worry.
Yeah. No, it gave it the green light.
It's all set. Man, she's dealing with this injury she's had for forever, for like the last year, I guess. It's just one of those groin injuries that is just very hard to deal with because there's too many muscle groups involved.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and it kills her because she's so active, she's so physical, and she just can't do shit right now.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get her finally really hooked up.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Bummer.
We started a chorus out here too.
Joe Miller has some great stuff on the pelvic floor and hip function.
Okay.
That could be a resource depending on, obviously normal stretching and stuff has already been exhausted, right? But she's got some pretty phenomenal ideas in the realm of hip, pelvic floor, not just a female conversation, folks.
Yeah. She's seen some good people now, some good people. I think what she's finally found is a good cross between people who are physical therapists or have history with physical therapy and also massage therapists. So you're getting sort of both perspectives on it. I think that's really been beneficial for her here. But of course, every time we go to a new place, it's just like anything else, you got to find a new healthcare practitioner. That's hard.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, right.
You guys,
that's
famously,
a tough one.
Tucson, though, has the home of Dr. Andrew
Weil.
Weil, that's it. Yeah. Who is super cool.
Super cool.
He's got a restaurant here, doesn't he? Have you been?
We should go.
Yes.
What's it? Yeah, we should totally
go.
He
owns a restaurant in Tucson. I've heard him talk about it. That apparently serves. The idea is it's real food, which would sort of how I cook. True Food Kitchen. Dr. Weil's restaurant.
True Food. They have those in yeah. There's some of those in
California.
Scottsdale. I've been there. It's fantastic.
Really?
Yeah. Super good food.
True Food.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be looking at food right now because I'm getting hungry.
Right. We can throw some steaks on.
There's two in Phoenix. I don't see one in Tucson though. I thought he lived here.
So my parents live up in Payson, so every once in a while we'll meet in Phoenix and do some get together, whatever. And we frequented True Food in the past. It's a good spot.
It says there's two in Phoenix. It doesn't say there's one in Tucson.
Yeah,
it's too bad. But man, he's a cool guy. I've been really into his stuff. There's it's interesting actually. There's this great book. One of my favorite books is called Island. It's an Aldous Huxley book. You ever heard of this? So if Brave New World is his dystopia, this is his utopia.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal, man. It's like his opus. And in this book, the character who is the real medicine practitioner is named Dr. Andrew, but I think his last name is, oh goodness, On a Better Day. If without 2 beers and a cigar on me, I'd have the last name of this character. but it's still a Dr. Andrew, and like it's almost like this.
It's like that guy.
It's like fated to be the same dude. Super interesting.
Heck yeah. U of A has a big school of integrated medicine as well.
Exactly. So yeah, that's his big thing, is that he started to make integrated medicine a huge thing, starting like here, which I think is super cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's almost impossible to find a doctor who will listen to you. There's some, again, another study that I'll fake quote, bro science here. It was some
bro
study I
valid.
heard about.
It's valid.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can affirm it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did hear about one study where it was supposedly if you they figured out how long it took for a healthcare practitioner to interrupt you, for a doctor to interrupt you while you were speaking, talking about your problem. Apparently, on average, it was 13 seconds. That's how long you get to describe what's up before they're going to interrupt you and start their thoughts.
Is that example of they need to ask a better question, or do we need to get better at delivering the information they want to hear?
I think that, well, it's probably both, right?
Right.
But I think a lot of doctors are just so rushed. I mean, it's a symptom of a broken system entirely, that they don't have time for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the real issue, that they feel so rushed that they couldn't give you another 20 seconds or so to finish up.
And when you meet them on an individual level, I feel like there's a bunch of great people put in cogs in a wheel that are hamstringed in their ability to provide the care that they'd really want to provide and give the answers that they really want to give. Like, my dad passed away of cancer when I was 3, and I don't know his doctor's name, but his doctor told him, hey, hush, hush under the table. Like, the only thing that's going to help you survive through this cancer medication is pot. So, like, you should probably smoke that. But, like, I can't tell you this. I can't help you with that.
Wow.
And it's just like, so I think that's an example of somebody doing, stepping outside of the cog, right? And really putting themselves at risk or in a harm's way. Yeah. But I think you have a lot of great people that are just put in the cog of this giant system and aren't really given the opportunity to give the care that they want. And it's sad. It's a bummer.
Yeah. I think, again, it's like we were talking about earlier. My eyes have really been open to what it looks like between when men go to a doctor and when women go to a doctor. And there's actually there's a really good documentary on Netflix about chronic fatigue syndrome. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's one of those autoimmune issues that it seems like with a lot of conditions that women in particular deal with autoimmunity, we just haven't bothered really to do any research about it or figure out what it's all about. And between that documentary and between, hearing about and seeing Andrea go see various doctors throughout the time we've been together, I get this sense that it's far harder for her to be heard than it is for me to be heard when I go to a doctor's office. Because it's that thing with women, right? Where it's if women are pushy, it's seen as a really bad thing. Like men, we're allowed to be aggressive.
Like our gold star is assertiveness, and
exactly,
she's too bossy, right?
She's too bossy.
Like bullshit.
She's bitchy. Yeah.
It's like powerful people are hamstringed because of that stupid idea.
Right. So I'm always happier when she goes and sees a female practitioner, because 9 times out of 10 she'll be like, oh yeah, that person really listened well. Yeah. It's like the idea that you would go to a doctor. It should not matter what gender of doctor or what gender of patient, man, but it seems to. And I'm definitely not trying to sound super woke or anything. I just feel like this is one thing I've noticed within my own life, where I'm more nervous when I know she's going to like a male practitioner, because I'm like, all right, and you're definitely like, make sure that they like stop and like hear you, because it just sucks to when she calls me. She's like, I think I got it across with what I was trying to say, because she's not a bitch. Mm-hmm. And so she, but if I was in that fucking room, I'd be like, all right, listen, bud, stay here. All right, here's what we're going to do. Yeah. I'm not done with you yet.
Yeah.
I can almost make it funny. I'm almost allowed to make it funny as a guy,
A little bit.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. But does that, sometimes does the assertiveness thing work? Because I remember when in the environment of the car dealership, right?
Sure.
Like the customer's always right. Wrong. What was I going to say?
Assertiveness in a car dealership.
Yeah. I was all about helping and like, let's get the fucking solution done. Let's handle this. Let's make this your easiest day possible.
Right.
But when they came and like stomped their feet and told me how to do my job, it was kind of like, huh? Wait, wait, what? So then like sometimes our male natural assertiveness can kind of backfire. Like I see it backfire for me a lot in especially car related customer service things, because I know how the back end works.
Yeah.
So I just always assume and operate like we can talk on the back end, and they're always like, no. We need to talk like we're on the front end. It's like, dude, stop with the customer bullshit. Like how many hours of labor technician, like let's talk as peers instead of like you customer dumbing me,
right.
And it makes the interaction harder and less smooth than when I just kind of give them the sticks and let them take the lead.
Yeah.
But if that person's taking the lead in kind of a haphazardly way just because the other person is a female, then that's not okay.
It's still one of those things where I'm not trying to assert that it's because she's a woman.
Right.
I think that there's correlations. I think there's things happening where it is. I think it's some shit we'll need to get over at some point, and I think it gets better with time. Yeah. Like anything else, I think it gets better. But
we all have.
It just makes me sad when I know I can go see a doctor and I know for sure I'm going to get every question I have answered.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't, but I know that she tried, then I'm like, that's fucked.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after watching the documentary, realizing just how many autoimmune issues that mostly pertain to women, and you look at the history of women's health too, it's not good. It's not good. When there's something that more affects women than it affects men, we don't do a super good job of finding answers to that problem. When something affects men, we find answers very quickly. It's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, no.
I like being a guy because it's nice because everything's easier. But
it's nice, and I have no perspective being the other.
Yeah. But when you have someone you care about deeply who then has to deal with some bullshit,
it's hard.
You don't like it.
Yeah.
It makes me upset.
In the past, when I've been there, I've felt powerless. It's kind of like...
Yeah. It makes me think, like, even the way you're describing trying to get help with, like, a car. This is something that we've said so we own a marketing agency, and we've put it out there before, the idea of you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, right? Like when people are kind to the person that they're working with or trying to connect or make a good relationship, you're almost always going to get a better experience. And I just think that's, again, it's just like we talked about at the very beginning. I can't really control anybody else or anything at scale. What I know is on an individual level that I can go into what is going to be a bad customer service experience. And 9 times out of 10, when I have started cracking jokes and trying to get that person on my side and be like, yeah, it's you and me against the system here, it goes better than when I go in and I've already decided that person's on the other side of the table from me, and I'm going to have to bully them into giving me something that I want.
It's like creating the ally out of the enemy.
Yeah.
Or the perceived enemy.
The perceived enemy. Because we somehow walk in like we're in conflict with each other.
Right.
But we both want, at some point you want to go home today and not be like upset about having a terrible day at work. And I want to go home with something resolved as to what I do. So I'm going to put my expectations in a place as a customer where, like, all right, I understand I'm not going to get everything I want here. Probably not.
Yeah.
But here's what I need to walk away with in this compromise. You know what I mean?
Mutual win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I think what you're doing, what might be the thing at play there, is you're being human, because their perceived biasness or listening for you is an unruly customer, potentially, right? Or in that engagement,
because they're already ready to not like you.
They're already ready to manage the customer. Like there's that Stanford prison experiment where in like 4 seconds, the guards aligned with themselves and looked at the other people as the other. Right. Well, the same thing happens with a customer service environment, just not highlighted in a violent way, so it's not as easy to see. But like in a customer service environment, you have the car salesman or the customer service rep or whatever, and the customer. The customer is the other. So through bad interactions with the customer, that jades our vision of the other, and then when a new fresh person comes in, and then I think is a person to them. They're like, oh, this isn't a customer. This is a person.
Right.
And then you get to relate to them on free of their biasness or free of their judgment of this is how this customer interaction is going to go. It's like, oh, that's a person that I'm talking with. We can be people together. Awesome. Okay.
Right. You know what what wrecks it all though is when that customer support person is already gone, already too jaded because they've been burned too many times. Oh, it's Heather. Hey, what's up?
I mean, interrupt you guys.
No, not at all. Very casual.
Here.
I can't believe I'm seeing you for the first time ever in Tucson.
I know.
We've been here a couple weeks now.
That's what Kyle said.
Yeah.
Can't believe that.
Well, I've been going to the 11 o'clock class mostly. It's a little easier for me in my schedule.
Yeah. I train in the mornings. Train strength and conditioning in the mornings, so go to the evening class most of the time. So it's a nice long break.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's cool. That's cool. And then are you teaching the competition class?
Tony was Tuesday. I mean, we switch on and off depending on who's going to compete.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
What are you up to now? What are you doing?
Well, I just finished a nap, so I decided to take my kitten out.
Oh, very
Get
nice.
some sunshine. I don't know
Where's
if you
she
can
at?
see her. Hey, who's it?
Am I going to get you back on the podcast while I'm here, but like in person now?
Yeah.
Because I know where you live now. I can just show
Yeah.
up
I know,
and just ring your
seriously.
doorbell and be like, let's do a podcast.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. I'll message you. We'll set it up.
Cool.
All right.
Dude, hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. This one of the coolest things about staying in a place for just a little bit longer. You can actually start to build some tiny bit of community. Very cool. It's the best. Almost impossible when you stop in a place for a week, but we've done that too.
Almost.
Podcast is a good excuse. Podcast is a really good way to meet people.
Yeah.
Been super cool.
And jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I was super surprised. So I traveled to Oceanside with a buddy of mine for some training.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 6 months later, traveled back, walked in, and they were like, "Oh, what's up, Kyle?"
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I feel so loved and appreciated. It was awesome. But it's because we made a connection, you know? It's like you can make those connections staying in a spot.
Definitely bonding in a really real way.
In a real way.
Yeah. Because
Oddly.
you have to have someone's back. You can't. It's not.
I have to trust you not to kill me.
It's mostly not conflict. In fact,
Yeah.
if you're going to a gym and it feels like mostly conflict, that's a problem. Like you should be rolling with someone where it feels like we're here to try to help each other. Like we're gonna get. It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna hurt.
Right.
But if I know that I'm actually hurting someone, that has got to be the worst thing.
Yeah.
I actually got kind of pissed off at a guy the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little pissed. It doesn't matter who it was.
Right.
But
what happened?
Well, I tapped, and he was like, "Well, that's not a submission." And I was like, "Yeah, I tapped because you're fucking hurting me, dude." And
You're like, it doesn't matter whether it's a submission
Well, he
or
didn't
not.
stop. I tapped and he didn't stop, and I was like, "Oh, I feel like that's a sacred law here, right?" It's like,
that should be.
let's just say he had a knee on my injury, and I tapped because I needed to tap, and he was like, instead of taking his knee off my injury, he was like, "That's not a submission." And I was like,
That's
I
not
know
his
it's not a
That's
submission.
not his position.
It's
to
a
say.
submission if I tap, dude.
Right. Like that's the game we're playing. Is like, hey, you stop when I tap.
I got a little pissed.
Yeah.
But I have rolled
Rightfully.
with him once again, and it was fine. So I'm not that mad. It's fine. It just was a second. I think
Was it
I
frustrating?
get. I'm not asking everybody to be perfect or anything, but definitely frustrated me for a second. I was like, it doesn't matter. If I tap, it means we're done, man.
Right. That person might have gone home and been like, huh. You know how like when everything settles and you kind of see the situation over again, and you're like, oh, I was totally an asshole there.
Listen, he was trying to teach me something. The reason he thought I was tapping is because he thought I was tired. But I've been doing this long enough to know that I'm not going to tap because I'm tired. You don't just tap because you're done. You're giving up. You're out of energy or something. I was tapping because you're putting your body weight on an injury of mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he might be a huge fella.
Big enough. It doesn't matter, right? I mean,
Doesn't matter.
an entire person on their knee is pretty good.
No,
So I don't know.
I
got a
was
little
being
bit.
inquisitive right there. I was trying to figure out who it was. But yeah.
I'll tell you after this.
Yeah.
No, I won't really. I might, but it
We'll
doesn't
forget.
matter because again, I don't actually have beef with this person. I get it, and I honestly think that from his perspective, he was definitely trying to teach me something that he thought I didn't know as a new guy. The thing is, he doesn't know me well enough, and I do know this I've been in it long enough that I know for sure. And in fact, I actually knew it before I started because I learned the rules of the game before I started playing the rules of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit disheartening for a second because I was like, really?
You're like, wait a minute, that's not
the rule.
that's not how this works.
And in fact, even if you're right, and I'm just being a pussy, fine.
Uh-huh.
But you stop first, and then you're like, why'd you tap?
Right.
But you stop first.
And I would say, even if you're right and you're being a pussy, which I don't think you are, and I don't think you were, one would say, if the intention was to help the other person get more comfortable digging a big hole, and I feel like there has to be agreement for that. Like when you go into a Shark Tank and you sit down and you know that fresh person is going to kill me for 2 minutes, that fresh person is going to kill me for 2 minutes, that fresh person is going to kill me for 2 minutes. And when you go and sit down on the mat, signing up for that 6 minutes of work, you're agreeing. You're agreeing to the fact that these people are going to pull you into a place that's horribly uncomfortable, that you want to quit, and that might invoke verges of tears on the wrong weeks, right? There's agreement there. Yeah. Like, we don't get to just like, I feel like personally, I wouldn't want to be overly assertive in an environment where there wasn't agreement. Like, I'm not going to teach you how to get through the cardio tap of a roll unless we have some sort of agreement there.
Right.
You know,
Even
otherwise I'm just being an asshole.
It's
right.
I hadn't actually rolled with this person yet.
And breadth of relationship, friendship, that
yeah.
is the foundation of agreement,
yeah.
right? You know, like we have the relationship in such that I understand and would be able to also make the micro adjustments because I know you and I know your game.
Right.
You know, as opposed to just being unaware of an injury or
yeah.
whatever like that.
Well, and
then choosing that this is my time where I'm going to show you how to roll. No, you don't get to.
Well, I will say,
yeah.
because it's possible. I don't know. And
I love that we get to talk about this without the person, because it's not the person. It's just a situation.
Yeah. It's exactly like you were saying. This is entirely my perspective. This person may listen to this. I don't know if you guys are good friends, and this person may actually end up listening to this podcast. So if you do,
they might not even know who they are.
They might not. And actually, that's better. It's better because I'm using this as an example instead of to be
for sure
rude to someone. I am the new guy, man. And I have rolled with this person since, and this person has been super helpful in teaching me some really useful things. So I totally appreciate it. Mm-hmm. From my perspective, I had a bad moment.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like any fucking thing else we've been talking about today. It's my responsibility then to walk away from that, not expect that person to change or have any sort of elation about it. Maybe they did, fine. I don't care. Because I'm going to come back and be open-minded, but also be kind of aware. Just be a little more aware about what that person is. And it's not going to make me think, oh, the entire attitude of this gym is like that. It's not going to make me think the entire sport of jiu-jitsu is like that. There's no care here. But I also the thing I get to do is to demonstrate what I want to be. So when I'm in that position and I'm an upper belt rolling with a new guy, I know what kind of person I will want to be because I will know who I wanted at that time. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. You'll have felt the people that are learning with you, and you'll felt the people that are learning on you. Like when somebody's just grinding you out and you're like, oh, you just practice all your breast tricks. Good.
Right.
I'm glad we both learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, there is still learning in that at a certain level. Like once there's But to what you're,
it's complicated.
It is complicated.
Right answer to it all.
And I think to what you're saying, the takeaway or the actionable thing, the awareness might be, or Jocko would say the 100% ownership would be, if you have a rib thing, mention it, because then the knee on belly might not have ever happened.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like, hey, sometimes if I'm not familiar with the person, hey, I'm Kyle, blah blah blah. Is there any injuries?
Yeah. You know what though? I actually feel bad mentioning it to people because I did mention it to another guy who's kind of a newer belt, and he asked me like several times throughout the roll. He's like, "You all right?" I was like, "Yeah, man.
Like,
I'll let you know.
It.
Like, I promise I'll let you know."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't want someone to be nervous and not give me their best, and feel like I'm hampering their game.
Or limp palm me. Don't limp palm me. You know?
What is that?
Like a limp handshake. You know, when somebody's like so uninterested in meeting you, they're just like, it's like, come on, let's have a good roll.
Right. Let's try. Let's try. But I don't want to set up an expectation that they're going to hurt me before we've even started. Like, I don't want them to be thinking about that. I want you to just do what you do. Probably ashes.
Got it.
That's pretty gross, actually.
No, it was
just eating tobacco.
Well, would it be grosser to eat it than to smoke it? 6 to 1.5 dozen the other.
Well, not a small piece like what you
have you ever done a dip camping?
A dip?
Uh-huh.
No.
Oh, a dip camping is great.
No.
Or hiking.
Mm-mm.
Don't swallow it.
Yeah.
It's pretty gross.
I've had
Your wife probably won't be stoked at all.
I've had Swedish snooze.
Uh-huh. Whoa, what's that like?
It's good.
Yeah?
It's good. You're going to make me feel bad because I don't mean to talk about everything I've ever done in front of my parents here. Just why don't they just mute it and skip forward about 30 seconds? Swedish snooze is awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But what's even better actually is the non-tobacco, just nicotine, like Zyn. Have you seen that?
Okay.
The stores?
Yeah.
I like that stuff. That stuff's good because it's just it's no tobacco at all. So you're really just getting nicotine salt, food grade nicotine salt. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. Guinness. Sit. Down.
I think we're still wanting some of that steak. I'm a little pissed off about how long this. What is this dumb thing you guys are sitting talking to these dumb microphones?
It's like, this is silly.
This is
It's
stupid.
so fun, Guinness. It's awesome. Get your steak. Get your steak.
So when are you going to start your podcast?
Huh? I don't know.
You must
This is
have thought
super
about
fun.
one.
Oh, I have.
If you listen to podcasts, you've thought about starting one.
Right.
Right. But man, I need to hear your version. I don't know what would it be? Would it be about Tucson? Would it be with all the 10th Planet guys? Would it be?
I don't know.
Or would it be more on the health end of things? And it would be
It'd probably be on the health.
kettlebells and functional.
It'd probably be on like the performance health end of things. Yeah, because that's like, it's like what I'm most interested in. Like
Yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk said, like, I was listening to this thing and I was driving to the gym at one point and I was kind of like in between, like, what should I be doing or what do I want to do? And this little quote, it was like, I get asked all the time of like, how do I find my passion? He's like, I don't know. But like the punchline is like, what would you do tomorrow if you didn't have any responsibilities?
Oh yeah,
And I was like, instantly, I was like, I go to the gym.
interesting.
So it's like, I care, and for as long as I can remember, have cared about some sort of, there's a period of time where I didn't care about performance, but I cared about it in a car,
Yeah,
where I've always kind of cared about performance. And I think it's a cool enough tab, if we'll call it, that it's all encompassing, because if I want to perform my best, well, I have to have all aspects of my life involved. It's not just training. It's not just, your mindset. It's not just food. It's not just breath work. It's not just meditation.
right.
It's like, it's all of that. So probably have to do with something like that, performance.
I think that'd be cool, man. I'm ready to listen.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I'll be your first guest.
Okay.
I just think everybody who has. Here's the interesting thing. I named this podcast "Strangers Worth Meeting."
Yeah.
Super on purpose.
I love the name.
Thank you. It's because I don't think that every stranger is worth meeting. I don't mean to sound like an elitist here, but to me, there are certain people I want to meet and certain people I don't really care. I don't need that story.
They're value adds for my life and they're value adds for somebody else's
Exactly.
life.
There's someone who I'm totally uninterested in who would be amazing on someone else's podcast. That's great. I get to decide in my own life and on my own podcast who I think is cool and who's got a cool story, right?
Yeah.
If someone's on this podcast, it usually means already, I at least think that they are interesting enough to have their own podcast. They're interesting enough to have
I'm
their
honored
own
to be
story.
on here. This has
I think
been
you
really
should-
fun.
I think you should do it for sure.
I've been terrified because it's like, well, how does this work? And then how does the conversation, what's it like? And then having done this or doing this now, it's like, oh, this is just a hang. Like, yes,
Yeah.
there's a camera there, but like I've somehow successfully just looked at you instead of like focusing on the camera or focusing on that this might be like this audience thing. It's just been
Right.
like, oh, so I'm just like hanging out with my buddy fucking Tyler right now. Like, this is awesome.
There's a couple ways to think about it. Listen, I love podcasting. Man.
Yeah.
This is the third podcast I do. I don't know how to say that. What am I trying to say? I do 2 other podcasts. Maybe gonna do another one too. Because they are a format. First of all, I love nuance, and this is a format that allows for so much nuance. Because I can say something really dumb or really insensitive or rude, but when you're doing it in this format, if someone's hearing me and has heard me before and is watching the video too,
Yeah.
very hard to misinterpret that I'm not just trying my best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I put this into like the format of a blog, hi, you're so adorable. Look at this little kid. If I put this in the format of a blog or an Instagram post, and I'm writing this down, there's something so declarative about it where it's like, I better really know what I'm saying before I put it there. To me, it's hard to commit to that level.
Yeah.
So the fact that I have the nuance here means that if someone hears this, I like to think they'd extend me the general human courtesy of like, I'm not a bad person, and I'm just trying. And I maybe have some opinions, and I'll probably change them tomorrow. Yeah. It's also super painful to do this because if I go listen to earlier episodes, my mind changes on things so rapidly that like I'll be embarrassed about things I've said not that long ago. Like a few episodes ago, I'm like, don't be. What was I saying?
Don't be, because like, okay, so when I hear that, I totally get that it would be. I am surprised how well I can manage hearing myself, because usually I don't even like hearing myself talk. Like having heard a recording of myself, I'm like, oh. But
we have a weird reason for that.
I appreciate that. The transparency and like, this is my opinion, and the confidence in being able to change your opinion and not feel like you have to continue on the motion of that thing because you just said that thing and it was on the internet and whatever. It's like, I think that transparency is good, and I've appreciated, like we have a mutual interest in the Rogan podcast. It's like, I've appreciated that over the years, and now sometimes it feels like more censorship than really an evolution of an opinion change, where like, hey, maybe he shouldn't say this to like 5 million people.
Yeah, it's that responsibility
but like,
we're talking about.
400 episodes, it wasn't. It was like, oh, this is my idea, and then it was like, hey, so like that idea didn't work, and here's what I found now. Mm-hmm. And like him sharing that almost gave, in some weird way, it at the place that I was in, it gave me
freedom, and
there you go. It gave me freedom to do the same. Like, oh, I don't have to be stuck on the old idea that I once was, or I'm actually, even better yet, separated from my ideas.
Right.
Like, my ideas are my ideas. Like, they're not me. So like, let's attack my ideas and break them down and cut them apart and set them on fire. If they exist afterwards, great. They're probably a good idea. If they don't, like, I'll discard it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not right.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that transparency, I guess bringing it back, demonstrating that to your audience, I don't know, I appreciate that when I'm a listener or watcher of a thing.
Right. And also, I do my best to not make the show about me, but I know that I'm the through line of the show. I understand that. Right. I understand that people are meeting people with me, but I don't want to be the subject. I want the person I'm meeting to bring their stories. Yeah. But a podcast is such an interesting format because you can do it in a million ways, man. There's so many shows. They do it all totally different. I obviously have the way I do it. I like the long form conversation. There's no point. There's no notes. There's no questions. But if someone wants to do that, it also totally works. It's super fun to listen to. It always has been. Since the early days of radio, it's been interesting to listen to it that way too, The one thing you have to have is the ability to create like through line. Like I've had, like you and I, we talk pretty easily. Uh-huh. I've definitely had guests where I have to be the radio person, and I have to help relax them and bring them to the next thing and try to.
Shit, that'd be hard.
It's not the easiest when you get someone who's like shy, right?
You've made this really easy for me, by the way.
Thank you, man. Well, that's because I don't have those rules with it, because we can talk about whatever. It is just a hang. Yeah. But at the same time, would we really have done this? Maybe. But I wouldn't have had a real good excuse. Yeah. To be like, hey, let's go. Like if I'd been. Isn't that a lot?
Well, that's why.
Like, hey, man, you seem like a cool guy. Let's go smoke cigars for several hours on your porch. It'd be like, oh, whoa.
Like, that's
inviting yourself over. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why these beers and things like meals and stuff like that end up being so connecting amongst people. You're technically in his spot, but like,
very nice.
He's like, if I could just lay here. He's like, if I could lay here.
Oh, it was just so weird? Huh? My headphones just started popping. I was like, what's going on? It's because you just made so much static on me.
All the static.
Hi, Guinness. Yeah. Yes. Wait, what were we just saying?
I don't know. I got totally lost.
It's all good. Anyway, podcasts, they're the best. They're the best. And especially for travel, they're such a good excuse. I see this when I go to towns where I'm like, I'd love to meet that person, and I have no reason to meet them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, the reason for the hang.
You can hang. You can sit.
Well, I think that's why alcohol and other stuff like that is so popular. It's because it's a reason for a hang.
Yeah.
You know, like why I've been showing up to jiu-jitsu, like other than the fact that I want to progress this thing forward, you know, I've injured myself a few times and I like the way I say that. I've injured myself a few times in jiu-jitsu. Nobody's hurt me.
Yeah.
I've injured myself a few times in jiu-jitsu and sat and watched classes and made notes and taken videos and stuff like that. And then when I start doing jiu-jitsu again, I noticed the things that have stuck were the classes and that I've watched or the notes that I've taken and stuff like that. So like it does bring some value to the jiu-jitsu game. But I think also it's a social thing. Like I'm showing up to a little bit of a hang with my peeps, you know.
Yeah.
Even if I'm just checking in for that, you know, 10-minute in between, you know, at the end of class when everybody's done rolling or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
We already didn't have a lot of those. We've already been losing those, the places where you're supposed to go and connect with people for real. I feel like we've just been giving them up slowly over time.
And I feel like it's engineered and we're just allowing it, and it's terrifying to me.
This year has gotten worse. This year has expanded it to another level, to another fucking level.
Like I think I want everybody to have comfort and freedom and feel secure and safe in their own space. But like I really miss just like, and what I love so much about the jiu-jitsu is the normalcy of like that human embrace, you know, like even throughout COVID, like all the people that I roll jiu-jitsu with, it's like we're saying what's up with the hand bump and the hug and all that stuff. It's like it's I don't know, I like that. I think that's important, like that connection to human.
This is so weird. You have no idea how many electric shocks I'm getting right now, Guinness.
He totally oh, look at your leg here. It's
Look at that. It's like there's literally full electricity running through me. I know. Does my
his usual spot on the couch is right there. Get it. Come on. Down. Where's your bed?
Watch the headphones. It's easy to forget you have them on.
Get it. Come on.
There we go. Oh, wow. I just had like 40 friction shocks move through my body.
All the
Like,
snap
all at
crackle
once.
pops.
Woo! Otherwise, it was nice having a buddy up here.
Yeah, so I think that's why some of these things are so attractive. You know, like if you wrote the pros and cons of alcohol on a paper, you know, it wouldn't be that attractive. But like, I think for a lot of people, and for me in the past, it existed as the hang. It was the reason to go and get together with your friends.
It can easily become a very dangerous thing in that way, too.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure, because then it's like you notice maybe. Well, I noticed an unhealthy pattern, you know, and behaviors that I wasn't happy with continuing. And it was when it was time to move on from that, I had to find a whole new network of people and a whole new hang. Like it was like, because of that, it makes it sometimes difficult to say, you know, to move on to the next thing. But, you know, like if we're a combination of the 5 people we spend the most time with, like, hey, let's be critical.
Right.
You know, like let's be critical of that, and if we're always going out partying, it's like and still hanging out with those people, it's hard to have a different behavior.
Yeah. Do you love how I brought over beers then today?
Yeah.
No, like, I'm just gonna drink them right in front of him.
Well, I mean, I have my thing. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And it's like if I expect to operate in some realm where I appreciate not being judged, I also have to pass on that same lack of judgment to another. So it's like the idea that to each their own, like, I don't handle alcohol that well, you know, like other people handle it great, you know, like me knowing that I think is important, but like, I don't know.
No,
but like pushing that onto another is completely silly.
I think that this is something I've been thinking about a lot. I think that we are, it's in equal parts within each of us. How afraid we are of being judged is the same level of how much we judge other people. And I know, unfortunately, that I'm super afraid of being judged, which means that I must not be extending the courtesy of not judging other people at all. Ooh. You know what I mean? And so that's something that I know I have to work on, because if I want this one to change, how embarrassed I am, It's not just I have to become more comfortable with myself. It's also that I need to stop judging other people. It needs to come down quite a bit. It's super hard.
Beautiful example of that for me is dancing. I have zero freedom dancing. And then when I see a dude doing some weird something or other, I'm like, look at that fucking retard. Oh, God, I can't believe I said that. Excuse me.
You missed the memo on 2020.
No, but like,
No, you're just being open.
I instantly have some dialogue of judgment in my head when I see somebody doing that without the perfect amount of flow, right? But really, I'm just being wiggly about how comfortable that person is in their own skin. And it's like there's a little bit of jealousness and envy there. It's like, I would love to be that free to move.
Yes.
Because, again, on a mushroom trip, I've just been completely overwhelmed by just this flowy movement, and felt like how much like I've been locked down in the past by this want for approval, recognition, like this external judgment conversation, whatever format it is. But it's crazy. Like, even with Christmas coming along, this elf on the shelf conversation.
What's the elf on the shelf conversation?
Oh, for elves on the shelf. In 2005, it started this idea that you have this stuffed animal.
I know
elf,
what they
and
are.
then they move it around, right? But it came up in conversation, and it existed to me as like, oh shit, this is just another way that we can get the programming in for this external judgment. This elf on the shelf is watching you. Better behave around
never
Christmas.
Alone too, by the way.
Santa is watching you. He's holding a cord for your activities.
Yeah.
So like we're set up from a young child to like, we're taught these external judgments.
That's interesting.
And then we're told to do things freely.
But they still serve a social function though, man. It's still important
for sure
that you want to abide by the laws of the tribe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're important, but then we spend so much time trying to free ourselves from them at the same time. You need like a respect for them, but an understanding of when to bend them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because you shouldn't just be out there dancing all the time, man. It's weird. It's not productive. It's not going to help us as a society.
Well, for sure.
But you got to know when you can bend that and be comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. You go to a nightclub, you're allowed to dance. So you should be able to immediately say, I'm in a place now where the social rules say it's fine, it's good. But you can't.
But don't some of the greats, like the greats, they've all stepped out of the social thing. Like, you're not supposed to do that.
You're right.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to do that anyway and become wildly successful.
But wouldn't you say that there's always going to be that's the nature of the game? There's always got to be someone who pushes the boundaries to the next place, because there's always going to be boundaries. Yeah. And it's just about where they go to the next place.
The creator archetype.
Just kidding. The next archetype. You and this archetype.
No, that was one of these just weird, preposterous ideas.
I get what you're saying, by the way. I'm not trying to fight that. I do think they're archetypes. I honestly think, though, that archetypes happen because we put ourselves in them more than we just naturally fall into them. I think we look at it and we decide, I'm going to be that archetype.
I'm going to be this
and
archetype.
I think that's harmful.
I'm going to be the tough guy archetype.
Right.
Or the good dad archetype. Or the... Yeah.
I was watching, you're making me think of...
I was the cool guy archetype for a while, and it was goddamn claustrophobic. Like...
That sounds awful.
It was
cool in my life.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful, because it was like, oh, I have to be cool. I'm like, well, what does that even mean?
How did you know you were the cool guy? People were doing what you were doing?
I mean, I don't know if the result ever was like I was the cool guy, but like...
Were you a bully in high school?
No, not so much. I was probably more in the realm of got bullied, but didn't really. Like, I was a skater kid before it was cool. Like when the jock was kind of the cool kid, I had the skateboard.
Okay.
So, but yet I was confident enough and athletic enough that I never really got picked on, if that makes any sense. Sure. Like I had the same adversity as similar.
Sure.
But like I was never a bully or bullied, I should say. I don't know where I was going with that.
I liked what you were saying about getting freedom. I was just thinking about
Oh, the cool guy thing. Like I can't dance because if I can't dance well, then that's not cool.
That won't be cool.
Or like a cool guy could never start jiu-jitsu, right? Because it would be uncool to be a white belt and to suck at it in a room full of people that are awesome that could murder you. Like this cool guy conversation.
Yeah.
Cool
can be evolving. Do you it's one of the funniest movies. Well, one of the funniest moments in a movie I've seen is in 21 Jump Street. The newer ones with Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum. Do you have you seen this?
No, I just like talking shit about remakes.
It's funny.
Those dudes are hilarious.
They show up at the high school, and they're trying to understand who's cool at this high school, and they don't because it's all flipped on its head. So the kids who care about climate change and are care about things are the cool ones. All of a sudden, they're like, "What is going on?"
We don't understand.
So it makes Jonah Hill be the popular one and Channing Tatum not the popular one because he's the good-looking dummy and the jock.
Yeah,
right. It's I don't know. I wonder if I think that can backfire too, just like anything else, because then what we're talking about, like highly intellectual and cynical people becoming the cool ones, or the people who care about the people who are highly empathetic become the cool ones. Eventually things are going to start to spin right back around, and all we do is just move in these waves like back and forth about what is cool, what is not cool. Yeah.
Like the pendulum that swings both ways.
Yeah, man.
I think it's
go like that.
I think it'll normalize. Like it's by design that the baby boomer conversation exists, so we think that we're not the mass, we're not the majority. So we have to dance to the tune of previous songs. Like when we realize that it's like, oh, wait a minute, we don't have to exist in these extremes. That's only such a small portion of people that exist in these extremes. Like, it's creating a big enough gap for this huge breadth of normal people. Like I heard once politically it really responded to me, or I really responded to it as like, I support the gay couple next door protecting their I support the gay couple next door protecting their marijuana crops with guns. And it was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm pretty for that. Yeah, I'm pretty for that. That pretty much makes sense. And I think, a lot of people are coming from a place of from a unifying place of good, and it just starts to venture off and it starts to look a certain way, and the extremes are being highlighted, so we think that the other is this extreme when the other is just a very, very subtly hued different version of ourselves.
Right.
Like I have two people in my life that I love and appreciate, one that voted for Donald Trump and supports Donald Trump, and one that vehemently hates that person and doesn't support that person and supports other people in exchange of that person, and I know both of them are coming from this place of good, lost. I guess I'm nervous talking about politics because I don't know a whole lot, but I do have an opinion.
It's I think what we tend to find is that people are much more reasonable than you expect.
Oh, that's what
the problem is. It's all happening online where no one's reasonable ever.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
So damn polarizing.
What each of these people would view as the other person's opposing opinion. If they just sat down at the table, they'd love one another. Like they'd have a blast. And it's like, if we can just find the common agreement rather than the few things we differ on, it's like we'd be way better off.
That's real connection, and that's nuanced connection, and that's why I like podcasting.
And that's why long form, I think, is the best way to go.
Long fucking form. Very long form.
Because you can't hide.
Going to sit at the table with someone and really figure out. You're going to get your questions answered, but they're not going to be the questions you think are important. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're going to realize like, oh, other things are much more important. Like, do I get along with this person? As opposed to like, what are their opinions on these topical issues? It's not really like that when you're connecting with other people.
Right.
That's what I think podcasts are great for. And you can take as long as you want. And there's no rules. And you can do it however you want to do it. Because every time someone says there's a rule with podcasting, you're like, no, here's a million examples that break that rule. So it just doesn't It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, in fact, like podcasting broke the rule of audio, right? Like in certain ways. And it was declared that, oh no, it has to come over this broadcast and has to be said in this certain way with this certain format. And then a few people were like, no, it doesn't.
Right. It has to be produced by large media instead of individuals. But when it comes down to it, this is my setup. It's pretty simple. It's not terribly expensive. Luckily, I know a little bit about audio stuff, but even if I didn't, I could do it on my phone. I could do a whole podcast from just my voice memos app, you know? Mm-hmm. People do better podcasts than my podcasts with just a voice memos app because they're more entertaining and they're more exciting, whatever, you know what I mean? So, and they're smarter. There's definitely smarter people.
Sometimes the quality, so I've been spoiled a little bit by Rogan's podcast and such the audio quality is so good that sometimes when you go onto other podcasts, you're like, I can't listen to this for as long. And it's not about the it's not about the content or the people, right?
Yeah.
It's like
there's a science to it.
Poppiness or something and then you're like, oh, Jamie's the shit, I guess.
I do my best, and luckily Andrew's really talented with it. She's helped me a lot. So
that's awesome.
And then getting a good rig and like decent microphones. And these ones, I mean, these are condensers, so every time you hit a chord, you hear it in the microphone. You know what I mean? So there's always the next level, but at the same time, you gotta start somewhere too. You know, the podcast won't be worth listening to until I'm worth listening to, right? Or until the guests I'm getting are worth listening to, and I think they all are. But do millions of people think that? Not yet. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll see where we go. But yes, long form is where it's at, and this has been a long form podcast today, man. I appreciate you hanging in there. I actually don't know how long we've gone for total. It'll be interesting to see.
That'd be cool.
But what do we say we tie a bow on this thing?
Hell yeah.
Call it. So where can people find you on social media so they can kind of follow up? And
I guess the easiest place would be Instagram, at primal.kyle. And messages,
check them out.
Whatever.
I'll snap some pics before I leave here, but you can find them as always, at THicksonLife on Instagram and Twitter. And gonna be in Tucson for a minute here. It's been it's funny when I get into the holidays, it's so much harder to schedule podcasts. People just don't want to do anything. But I actually think I'm going to have a slew of episodes I'm doing like all really close to each other. So if people want to follow along, it's going to be Tucson for a minute. I guess that's the only update I have for people. So keep, stay subscribed, if you will, and follow along. Follow primal.kyle.
Yeah.
Primal.kyle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And keep training.
Keep training and try some jiu-jitsu at some point. Make 2021 the year you get into some jiu-jitsu because it's awesome. Just drop by for a class. If that doesn't hook you, I get it. But if it does, you will have discovered something very, very cool. So check it out. And as always, we will see you on the next episode.